With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool.
Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
And they all die. They all eventually die. They don't understand. You know, they think it's easy. The problem is they're just not interesting people, any of them. So, they're not telling spreader bar stories. And that,
No, they're not.
Rich Crage.
And you'd start these arguments and be like, that guy's an asshole, screw him or whatever. And I'm like, I gotta go see him in like 2 days. Like, you're out there in Texas all alone, like starting all these fights. I gotta meet all these people. I gotta be at these shows. I have to do stuff. You're like, whatever. Nothing's gonna happen. So, easy for you to say.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening?
How are you?
Not too bad. How you doing? Getting by, right?
How do we not know how to start these things after 11 years?
I have talked to you every week for 11 years, and we talked before these too. We talked before, but it's I don't know. I've never been really good at that. The beginning of a hello, hi, how are you? It's like I don't really. Do you honestly care how I'm doing? You don't.
I mean, not really.
It's fine. Yeah, and I don't really care how you're doing either. So,
I know you're fine.
I think I would tell you if I was. You know what I mean? Like it's such an unnecessary question because you would know. Like we get on the call and I'd be like, "Hey, Joe, you know what? I'm just like you know what? I just repress those feelings deep in my brain and my body and just do this damn show probably anyway." So okay, hi, how's it going?
What on earth was that?
I'm trying to think if I would confide in you if something was indeed wrong or if I would just push ahead through the show, you know.
I think it would depend what it was.
Right.
I think if it was some deeply personal issue, you're not going to do that. But if you had like a head cold and wanted to take the night off, I'm sure you would.
Never.
I mean, you get the idea.
I don't think have I ever taken a sick. I've done podcasts being very sick, but I don't know if I've ever fully. I'm trying to remember now. I mean, at least not in the last now that we do these things live too, like I just cannot. You know what I mean? Like if I'm sick like a day, I'm just thinking, man, I have to be ready to go, man. I can't miss this. I'm sure back in the day when we were just like we would text each other and be like, hey, you want to do the show on I don't know Tuesday? And you're like, sure. I'm sure there was one of those days where I was like, hey, let's do Wednesday. I don't feel good, but yeah, in our regular scheduled, especially live, I don't think I've been too sick for an episode. And I think you've been pretty good too, despite many ailments along the way, including I think there was maybe one where you were just too. Oh no, there was the one where I told you can't do the show. You have to stop doing the show. But otherwise, yeah, I think you've been pretty good as well. A lot of vacations for you, but that's all right.
I had the thing where I didn't have my voice.
Because didn't you do a Thursday reviews? And I was like, Joe, no, you're done. You're out. It's not happening.
No, I couldn't do the Thursday review. I had to write it. Because the doctor told me not to talk for a week. And then the other time you told me not to do the show was when my dog died. I was going to do the show. You told me, no, you're not doing the show. And those are the only two that I can think of where I didn't do the show. I don't know. It's not breaking rocks. I mean,
it's not bad. That's what I always think about. It's like, I'm never too sick to just come on here and shoot the shit. I mean, if anything, I would say like, hey, we can we do like an hour and a half? And even then, anytime I say, hey, can we do 2 hours? It's never the case. How many times have I said, hey, Joe, you think we can, try to target like 2 hours, 2.5, and it's 3:10 and we're still chatting about some bullshit, So yeah, that would be the only thing that I would say. But yeah, it's you get on here, get some tea, get some water. I'll deal with it. I'll be all right.
You haven't tried the let's keep it to 2 hours.
It's been a while.
In a long time.
It's been a long time.
Because I think you realize that the first few times I was like, all right, we'll see. And then it's always 3. And then eventually when the last couple times you said that, I just flat out laughed at you. Like I just laughed. And I was like, who are you kidding? I was like, I'll follow the leader. Go for it, buddy. And it's not going to be 2 hours no matter what. And now you just don't even bother anymore.
just go 3. Just do 3 every time. It's fine.
Yeah. You just accept that, why are they saying in the chat that my gimmick of never getting sick is a wrap? I don't get sick. That was a voice ailment with the vocal cords.
A turgid, I found the medical term for it, but I forget what it was. A turgid, turgid
larynx or something,
like that. Yeah. It was not sickness. It was not sickness.
I was not ill. I wasn't ill. I could not speak effectively, and it went away like the guy said it would if I chilled out for a week, which I did. It was kind of cool being under doctor's orders not to speak because you can get out of a lot of things that way too.
Just pointing all over the house and telling you do this, you do that. Yeah, that's not a bad gimmick.
Yeah. But I still have never had the flu. That's right, chat. I've never had the flu.
Oh, whoops!
Right on cue.
You do cough. I mean that's never been debated.
I listen. I do get those Dave Meltzer 3-month-long coughing fits at times. I don't know what that's about. But never diagnosed with the flu, and I'm not even going to do the knock on wood gimmick. I know I'm impenetrable to the flu, so I'm not even worried about it.
Anyway, so that's Joe never had the flu. Has maybe been sick a couple times in his life, but not often, never on the show. No flu. And we're here and we're not breaking rocks here. We're just talking wrestling and a bunch of other bullshit. And we're going to do that tonight. We're going to talk a lot of wrestling, not all of it great, and it's a lot of weird stuff that we're going to touch on, but it should be a little fun show talking about a bunch of different stuff. We're going to get into NXT's Vengeance Day premium live event on Peacock, Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller, Steel Cage main event. Oh man, all the stars were out for NXT Vengeance Day. The 2 New Beginning shows, New Japan's New Beginning in Sapporo, night 1 and night 2. And then we'll preview this weekend's New Beginning in Osaka show. I want to touch briefly on the New Japan Battle in the Valley. That show isn't until next week, but it is a very, very fun card, and I think a lot of people need to be aware of because I too was like not quite aware of just how stacked this card is, but it looks like a really, really good card. So I just want to touch on it a little bit this week, and we'll do probably a bigger preview of it next week. And then, of course, we can't skip. Joe, there is a National Wrestling Alliance pay-per-view this weekend, and we are a National Wrestling Alliance podcast. So, of course, we are going to preview NWA's Nuff Said. And, Joe, of course I knew that Nuff Said was this weekend, and it wasn't prompted by people asking us in Discord, yeah, you guys are going to preview Nuff Said, right? And I said, yeah, of course we're going to preview NWA Nuff Said, which is very clearly this weekend on Fight, voicesofwrestling.com/fight. Of course I knew that. I know you know that because you're a frequent NWA watcher. I'm now just a pay-per-view watcher, but I guess we'll discuss how that might change moving forward because the access to NWA has certainly changed. But yeah, we're going to preview NWA Nuff Said. There's 4 pre-show matches. There's 9 matches on the main show. We're going to cover them all in extensive detail, each and every one. Before we do that, though, we did want to touch on a little bit of recent ratings for all the major wrestling shows. 'Cause I thought it was a very interesting week ratings-wise for Raw, for SmackDown, Impact, New Japan, the debut of MLW on REELZ. So there's a lot of different ways we can go here. Where do you want to start with the ratings discussion analysis for everything that happened in the last week, including Dynamite, which we now do have the ratings for?
I want to start with MLW the new Underground show, because we talked a little bit about it last week. It came in at 79,000 viewers and a .03 in the 18 to 49, which to me, I think that's a disappointment. We talked last week, and you had dug up REELZ. I think they're the 37th or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there. They were definitely top 40. I want to say low. Yeah, I think
they were
30,
40,
37, 38, somewhere in that range. But I mean, but better than you might think REELZ is.
Okay, so I've got for the last 4 weeks what they've averaged in prime time. This going back to January 8th, the week of January 8th. 334,000 viewers, 335, 320, and 350. And then this past week that ended on February 5th, 317. So that's about the last 5 weeks or so. REELZ generally comes in somewhere between 320 and 350, 320,000 to 350,000 average viewers in prime time. So I think people were a little confused last week because we were talking about REELZ in terms of average primetime viewers, but they only have, and comparing that to Access TV, because I thought that this show should outperform Impact and New Japan just based on the fact that REELZ has so many more viewers in prime time. For comparison purposes, Access averages 41,000 viewers in prime time. I mean, nobody's watching Access. So, REELZ most weeks is doing 8 times as many viewers in prime time as Access TV is. So that's a significant difference. But I think people were a little confused because when you look at total number of homes available, REELZ is only in 2.9 million more homes than Access TV. They're very similar in that regard in terms of total homes, but REELZ is exposed to more people because they have more hit shows. And there's 8 times as many people watching REELZ as is watching Access. So to me, for the MLW show to come in basically in the same neighborhood that Impact and New Japan come in terms of total viewers, and maybe slightly higher in the demo number, has got to be a disappointment because the power of the network they're on is much stronger. Even though, to be fair, MLW is not in prime time. The MLW show is 10 o'clock Eastern. But that's a direct comp to New Japan. Right. New Japan airs 10 o'clock Eastern on Thursdays. MLW airs 10 o'clock Eastern on REELZ. And, 79,000 and a .03. I mean, that's right in line with what New Japan on Access has been doing. And in fact, New Japan on Access, beat that pretty handily during those 2 weeks where they were airing the Wrestle Kingdom main events. So to me, and you also have to remember too, it's the premiere, which means it stands to go down. I mean, more than likely it's going to settle lower than the 79,000 viewers that they did on Tuesday. So, you're talking about a show that is doing well below the average primetime, the primetime average on the network it's on. And to me, I thought a 6-figure viewership to me was the baseline of what they should have expected, because that would even put them, 250,000 viewers below the primetime average on the network. So I didn't think it was a good number. What did you think?
No, I thought it was pretty disastrous as well. And now we should note that it was up against the State of the Union address. But by 10 Eastern, I think that was... I wasn't watching that. Obviously, I was watching LeBron and the Lakers, and I was going to say that was another thing too. Is LeBron chasing, sports immortality was also at the exact same time as this. So that was a kind of a tough week to debut for MLW. Up against LeBron, up against, I believe, some parts still of the State of the Union. So not really a great time to debut. But still, with that said, that number. You can't see, you just can't see that as anything but a tremendous disappointment. Because again, like all the things that we laid out last week, that the advantages that MLW Underground had, being on a station that just has more eyeballs. More people are usually watching REELZ than are watching Access. Nobody watch Access. People watch Access to watch Impact and watch New Japan, and that's about it. The other programs in Access, out of sight, out of mind. You don't even know what they are. You're listening to this right now thinking, man, what else is on Access? Yeah, you don't know because you don't ever watch Access because nobody watches Access. Yeah, it's
here. The number here. Let me tell you real quick. The number one show on Access is Impact Wrestling.
Right.
The number two show on Access is New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Right. So that's all you are watching it for.
The number three show on Access is something called Wahlburgers. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's like that's they're getting. I mean, that I guess it's in syndication now. That is the Wahlberg family. They opened up a chain of burger restaurants, and that is a reality show about their chain of burger restaurants. But they must be getting. I didn't even know they were on that station because that's on a bunch of other stations as well. So they're getting like third-rate syndicated Wahlbergs.
And
reality
that's the
show
third,
shit.
and that's the third most viewed show on Access TV.
That's brutal.
And New Japan smokes it for what it's worth. So, and like I said, the up-to-date average primetime viewership on Access this past week was 41,000 viewers, but that's a high watermark over the last 6 months. So I gave them more credit. For example, for the week ending January 29th, the average primetime viewership on Access TV was 29,000 viewers. Okay. Over the last year, they've bottomed out. Their low point over the last year is 21,000 viewers. And their high point is 47,000 viewers. I mean, nobody is watching. If it's not Impact or New Japan, people just aren't watching Access TV. So even though they only have 2.9, there's only a 2.9 million difference in homes in penetration. Okay. It's not even close in terms of how many people are actually watching these two networks. And to take it a step further, MLW is coming from BN. BN, Rich, averages 5,000 viewers in prime time.
Yeah.
More people
will listen to this podcast.
To this podcast than watch the vast majority of the programming on BN. And that is the worst humble brag of all time.
Right,
I mean,
take that, BN.
So,
we're gonna add that to our motto: more popular than BN Sports. Or,
I mean, that network seriously has no reason to exist if it wasn't for the occasional soccer match that I think people watch on there. And even those are probably extremely low numbers, but relatively speaking, it's huge for them. And if you want to throw in BN Espanol, they average 2,000 viewers in prime time. So even if you combine BN and BN Espanol, BN is averaging less than 10,000 viewers in prime time. So this is why we talked last week how MLW moving to a network that sometimes hits an average of 400,000 viewers in prime time is a huge, this is the best exposure that they've ever had.
Right. And put a lot of marketing muscle behind it as well, because I mean, I got tons of emails. We got screeners. We had their press people all, hitting us up, and I'm sure hitting everybody else up, because then I saw the day of a lot of news articles out there. Okay, MLW Underground debuting, and we're going to be live tweeting MLW Underground, and we're going to be doing a live report of it, and like they got that muscle behind them. And for this number to be the result of all that, like you said, it's the debut. They're probably not going to, I mean, it stands to reason that the next week is not going to have the same muscle behind it. It's not going to have the same velocity and veracity of press and all that sort of stuff that comes with a debut on a new network. So yeah, looking at that number, it's like, oh, this is what we thought might be a thing might not be a thing at all. They might just be completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things again. And it's MLW, and people are probably laughing and saying, well, yeah, they are. But like we laid out last week, there was an opportunity here. There's a potential for this to be a bigger deal than a lot of people probably realize. Not a huge deal, not competitive on the level of an AEW or whatever, but a big enough deal that, yeah, it's just... It does. It's rough. It's a rough number. And I if I'm MLW, I definitely look at that and go, ooh boy, that's not great.
Now, you did make a good point. Okay, the State of the Union, which it looks like decimated NXT, because NXT did 562,000 viewers and a 0.11. Those were, the NXT's 18 to 49 was down almost 20%. Week over week, and it was their lowest total viewership in quite some time. So you would have to think the State of the Union did a number on NXT. The State of the Union did run over 10 o'clock by about 20 minutes. So that could have affected MLW. And the LeBron game started at 10. The LeBron game started. The LeBron game went head to head with MLW. So, and that did 3 million views. That did a big number for a regular season NBA game on a Tuesday night. So those are factors that you have to consider. But I still consider the MLW number to be disappointing, especially if it moves downward from here. But we'll see. Maybe the basketball game in the State of the Union did more of a number on it than we're even acknowledging. And maybe they'll turn around next week and do 100,000 viewers or something. I mean, I don't see it. Now, did you watch the show?
I did not. I did not get to it yet. I was hoping to get to it before the show, but I had to catch up on a few other things. So, yeah, I know you watched it. You covered it over at flagshippatreon.com in your review roulette. But without giving away too much of the content that you put there, what did you think of the show? I heard very mixed things from the few people that I do know that did check it out.
I thought it was structured in a very interesting way. The show opened with Real One, which of course is Enzo, in a promo. He interrupted a Jacob Fatu promo, and then he had an impromptu match against Mance Warner, which went about 5 seconds because Mance Warner just knocked him out with one punch. But it was really just an angle to set up next week's main event, which is Mance Warner versus Enzo in a street fight. I thought it was smart to open up the show with Enzo because he's a recognizable star that, whether people like him or not, he popped quarter hours in the biggest company in the world. I mean, he was a legitimate quarter hour ratings draw in WWE. You know, they built 205 Live around him, and they would frequently put him on the third hour of Raw because that tricky third hour where it's hard to draw, he would hold up numbers and do pretty well. I mean, for all the negative things you could say about Enzo, and there's a lot of them, the guy has charisma and he's been a star, and he'd still be in that company if he didn't have his run in with whatever happened there, you know, and you know, I'm not going to relitigate that situation with the sexual assault and not informing the company and all that. That's a show for another day, but he'd still be there because they believed in him and they pushed him. So I thought it was a good move by MLW to put him out there, right? You know, the first quarter hour for, you know, people who have never seen MLW before, the idea is, oh, Enzo's here. This guy, I remember him. And then they main evented with the biggest possible match they can make in the company, which is Hammerstone, who's their dominant champion and their ace, against the Judge Nduka, because that guy's undefeated. And he has subsequently left the company since that taping took place. And he's already, you know, AEW already has their claws in him because he worked at Dark already. And they'd be foolish not to sign him. I don't know why WWE ever cut that guy. He looks like $1 million.
I remember when he got cut, we did the same. We did that segment where we were going through, and I think the break of him, I think him getting cut was breaking as we were discussing, and I remember just being like, "What? Like, how do you look at that guy and say, yeah, no, we got nothing for that guy. Let's cut him." Like, it boggled my mind when they cut him. Boggled my mind, and yeah, I think any company, AEW especially, should. And they have apparently called that guy as quickly as possible to get him in. And whether it's a tryout or whatever, that's a guy you want to at least kick the tires on because there's just a lot of potential there. A lot of potential.
Yeah, I mean, MLW wasted no time scooping him up when WWE cut him. And they immediately pushed him. He came into this match with Hammerstone undefeated. And, you know, one half of the tag champs, which he already dropped the tag titles in a match that hasn't aired yet. You know, spoiler alert. Sorry, guys. And I believe that's the last match they have of him on tape. So that'll air one of these weeks and then he's done. He's gone. But that was the biggest match MLW could make because it was their dominant ace world champion and the guy that they've been giving a sustained year-long undefeated streak push to. So I really think in terms of the way they structured the show, they put their best foot forward in terms of what to give a potential new viewer. The problem is, you know, there's not a ton more there, you know, for them. And you know, look, Hammerstone is a guy who I think they identified when they signed him in 2018 or whatever it was, that they immediately identified as here's a guy with a ton of upside who we can mold and make our own. And I think they've done a great job over the last 4 or 5 years pushing him. It's been steady. It's been patient. It's been deliberate. It's been organic. And he really does, when you watch MLW, Hammerstone feels like a big deal within the context of what MLW is. I don't want to overstate it. He's not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. But within the context of MLW, he feels like a big deal, and he feels like an ace. Why?
And he looks the part too.
He looks great. And why? Because he wins. They've put him in feuds with L.A. Park, Tom Lawler, Richard Holiday, now Nduka. Previous to that, whoever were the biggest stars in the company.
Beat Fatu and broke Fatu's big. I mean, MLW's done, for all the laughing about MLW, they've done a great job of the top guys in their company don't lose. They win all their matches. And it's a very novel concept, I know, for a lot of people. They win all their matches, and then when two people that win all their matches face one another, the one guy wins and he comes out looking better because he beat the guy that also never loses. And then Hammerstone continued to not lose, and now he's facing the judge, like you said. And he didn't lose. Now Hammerstone beat him. So it's just, they've done a good job of their top end guys. And the Hammerstone stuff was done very organically. And again, it's just a pro wrestling 101 build of just, here's a guy who looks like $1 million and wins all of his matches. It's not hard. It's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. And Mads Kruger, he won that feud. They pushed Mads Kruger to the moon. And then who beat him in the end? Hammerstone. So, they do a good job pushing their top guys. Okay. That felt like the biggest match they could make. And to come in with 79,000 viewers, you want to use the basketball game or the State of the Union as an excuse. Okay, well, I mean, we'll see next week when they've got Enzo and Mance Warner, who were, Enzo might be their biggest star in reality. And Mance Warner isn't that far down the list. I mean, he's not as big as Enzo. He's not as big as Hammerstone. He's probably below maybe a couple other guys on the roster, but they really are attempting to put their best foot forward here in the first couple of weeks. But now we are told in the chat that according to Dave Meltzer, AEW did in fact offer EJ Nduka a contract, which is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't let that guy leave the building without at least offering him a deal, on look alone. Now, he's only had about 25 matches in his entire life. I mean, he only had a handful of matches in WWE, and he's been with MLW, and he works every taping, and he doesn't look like he's lost, but he's very clearly a little green, and he definitely needs the reps bell to bell. And he's already 34 because he had a whole ass football career and bodybuilding career, I think, before he ever got into wrestling. So, it's kind of like a Jade situation where somebody's starting a little later in life and they're kind of behind the eight ball from that standpoint. But, he's got a great athletic background, and you see that's a guy is definitely worth investing in. Now he was one of the pandemic cuts, so maybe that had something to do where WWE was trimming back during the pandemic, and maybe the age was part of the reason too, because they're very much on this NIL fresh out of college kind of kick. And this was a guy that was already in his 30s or pushing 30 at that. Well, yeah, 2020, he would have been 30, 32 or 31 or 32 at that point. So, maybe that was the reason. Maybe they didn't feel he was coachable. I don't know. I mean, I would have gave that guy every opportunity, but here we are. And MLW did. And I thought he did a good job there. And now we'll see if he ends up with AEW. But as far as the show, I mean, it wasn't anything great. The production was better than Fusion, I thought. It didn't blow me away, but it was clearly a step up from Fusion. They changed it. It doesn't have the same background music or cryons or anything. It's different production, and it comes across Major League like it belongs on television, the production, where maybe Fusion doesn't. But the problem is the venues they run. That looks minor league, and that's something they're going to have to work on, making the buildings that they run look a little more, national television presentable than they do. Because the show really, when you compare it to Raw or Dynamite or even something like Impact, it definitely came across a little low rent, the venue that I think it was DCW Arena or whatever that the matches were taped from last night. But there wasn't a ton of wrestling. I mean, the first half hour had the little 1 minute squash knockout, which really wasn't even really a match. Another short match, and then a lot of promos, and then the main event was Hammerstone and the Judge in the last man standing match, which it was those two guys throwing each other through tables and hitting each other with chairs. So from a wrestling standpoint, it wasn't great, but I'll DVR it every week, and it's only an hour long, which is refreshing. It's an easy watch, and I'll keep an eye on it until it and see if it holds my interest. What's weird, Rich, is they run a second hour at 11, and it's called MLW Underground, but it's like old footage. Like last night, they reran.
Well, I think that's wasn't that what their original show was called back in whatever it was, 2002 or whenever they first came up. I believe that's what the name of the original show was. So it's a little, the branding's a little strange there. So I guess the lineage is there. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that it is still technically the same show. It's just like kind of a new beginning of the old show. Yeah, it was from 2003 to 2004. It was called MLW Underground TV. So I guess they're just going to bring back old episodes of that. So, all right.
No, that's not what it is. They showed the Battle Riot from 6 months ago.
I'm sorry.
And they didn't even really tell you, like, if you were just someone who had never seen MLW before, right? And you watch the first hour, and then the second hour comes on, you wouldn't think that it was something that was old. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't explain. They just, and I think they need to make a better distinction. Like, call that second hour Underground Classic or Underground Retro. Like, make it clear that that's not an extension of what you just watched. Like, it's not a 2-hour show. It almost felt like a 2-hour show, but the second hour was just old shit for some reason. I don't know. It was very confusing. And I don't know what's happening with Fusion. They don't upload it to YouTube anymore. It's on that Pro Wrestling TV app. And today they put out either a tweet or a release that said that the new episode of Fusion has been postponed. Now, we knew the lineup and everything. There was a Billy Starks match against Becca, a couple of, basically all the shitty matches from the October taping. They've been burning off those matches on Fusion because all the A stuff is going to go on this Underground show. But today they postponed Fusion on Pro Wrestling TV, so I don't know what's going on with that. Now, I did send an email to their PR, and they haven't answered me back because, clarifying, look, is Fusion going to exist? B, is it ever going to go back on YouTube? And C, are you completely done with BN? They have nothing on the BN schedule.
I think they are done. I thought I saw that release that they ceased to air Fusion ever again.
Okay, so they did announce that.
I believe so. Yeah, let me clarify that I actually saw that and read that, but let me make sure.
Yeah, so I would like to know if Fusion is still going to exist. Is it going to be on Pro Wrestling TV? Is it going to be basically a B show to Underground's A show? So we'll see what they say. I was hoping they'd answer me before the show, but they didn't. But I mean, he's good though. He will answer us because that's Sean Graben. He does a nice job.
Yeah.
So he will get back to me eventually. Because I did sign up for the screeners and everything today and took care of all that. But so MLW, it's we'll have to see. So it looks like for now you get the first run stuff at 10, you get the stuff from the archives at 11, and Fusion. I don't know. I really, I don't know what's happening with that. They have the stuff that aired last night was from the October taping. It's ancient. There's still about half of that show to go. And then they had 2 more tapings since. So they have a lot of stuff in the can. And I don't know when they're running their next show, but they do have a lot of stuff. I mean, like I said, and Duka's already out of the company. Mads Kruger was on the show last night. Rich, he hasn't wrestled for MLW since September. I mean, they so they have a lot of, but to be fair, it looked like they did a write-off for Kruger because he got attacked in a hallway and and the way the commentators were talking, it was like, we're never going to see him again. Like whoever attacked him, like completely destroyed him. But that's a guy who hasn't wrestled there for going almost 6 months at this point.
It's so weird. The taping schedule is just bizarre too. Yeah, it's a perplexing company in a lot of ways, and I know they're trying to do things the right way, and they do some stuff really, really good. It just where they stand in this marketplace and what they can be in this marketplace is just really, really hard to kind of figure out. And it's a problem with a lot of wrestling right now is it's like, and we talked about this during the pandemic a lot. We had one of those shows where we were like, let's honestly look at every one of these other companies that's on TV and like, what are you presenting to the audience that's going to make them want to watch you over the other, 8 hours of first run pro wrestling television that's on TV every single week. And I think that is something that MLW does struggle a little bit with. And I think they do have a little bit of a niche in some ways. And I think that they do have a few advantages because I think they have a really good PR team. And like I said, they're really, really good at getting their name out and getting press releases out and getting, publicity. But yeah, in terms of the bell to bell in ring, that product is just, it's tough. And then there's so many weird things about it that just make it really, really hard to follow if you're, a fan that's not tuned in to what's going on.
You don't like, that Rob Viper thread talking about a couple of the luchadors who never get booked and they politely ask to get out of their deals and they won't let them out. That's weird. I mean, that's just bad business.
Well, and that's carried on for publicly. A lot of guys did that. Yeah, MJF famously wanted to get out of his deal, and they told him no. And I don't know about Warner, but I know there was a time when Warner wanted to get out of his deal, and they were like, "No, you signed the." There's been a few of those, and I get you keeping guys to deals or whatever, but if you're not going to use them, then what do you? Why? That's
the
where
issue here is they're not. The issue here is they're not booking these guys.
Right.
So if you're not booking them and they want to, and they want to try something else, either book them or let them go, So, there's always some shadiness around MLW to some degree, but yeah, so NXT the same night, I just pulled up, from WrestleNomics. It was their lowest total viewership since December 6th. And their lowest demo since May 10th, 2022.
Yeah, 0.11 in the demo, so not great.
You got to think the State of the Union had something to do with that. But as far as the rest of WWE goes, what I wanted to at least mention was we talked last week about this Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes. What do you do at WrestleMania? Do you do, looks like they're going with Rhodes. Is it a mistake? Do you go with Zayn? Do you have two nights to play with? How do you handle this? Well, Raw and SmackDown were both down this week, but I wouldn't read too much into that because we knew Raw and SmackDown. Look, they were doing some phenomenal numbers coming off the Royal Rumble, and you knew that overall that wasn't going to sustain. But what was interesting to me about the WWE ratings this week is if you look at the quarter hours for SmackDown, okay, there is an enormous, ridiculous jump for the final quarter hour 8, which was the Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn stuff. So Sami Zayn is over as fuck. I mean, there's no question about that. And then you look at the Raw quarter hours, and what was the big quarter hour on Raw that stands out?
That Cody Paul Heyman.
Sticks out like a sore thumb, that jumped like crazy? Yep. Cody Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
So they have two guys in Cody and Sami Zayn who are just both over like crazy right now. And, it's like you really can't go wrong. I mean, do you try to find a way to wedge Sami Zayn into the WrestleMania mix with the two nights to play with in some form or fashion? I don't know. Or, however it plays out at Elimination Chamber, will that satisfy people? It's interesting because when you have someone that's this hot, it's you don't want to squander it. And I know they're going to have a gigantic house in Montreal and that show is going to do well and everything. But I don't know. I guess it would be an easier decision to potentially switch gears if Cody as well wasn't as over as
right. If you only had, and I was going to say because they have shown the ability to do that. They've done it. They did it with Kofi. They did it with Daniel Bryan. They've done that where they've pivoted around this time of year and said, all right, you know what? Fuck it. This guy's super over. The crowd's into him. We're not going to fight it. Whatever. We'll pivot. We'll do this at WrestleMania, and then we'll get back to what we want to do after that, or whatever. And they've done that before. And and to varying degrees, it's worked or it hasn't worked or whatever. But the problem here and the big wrench in this plan is that, yeah, like you said, the guy that you want to go with, Cody, is over as fuck too and is drawing ratings too. So it's not like you're looking at one guy who, the Daniel Bryan thing was you're looking at Batista and the crowd hated Batista. They were done with it. They were just booing like crazy. They were hijacking the shows. So they finally just said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go with Daniel Bryan. Fine. We'll do it. And the Kofi one was a little bit more, there just wasn't really anybody stepping up. And then Kofi was getting these insane reactions. So they said, fuck it. We'll do it. Why not? This one's tough because the guy you want to pick, the guy that you want to be the guy at WrestleMania is Cody, and he's still doing well too. So is there really a reason for them to say, shit, we got to pivot to Sammy? Like, they might just be fine saying, you know what, let's do the Elimination Chamber thing, that whatever we're going to do, whatever it is, and that will be enough to satisfy the crowd, and then we'll put Sammy in something, but Cody and Reigns is still our match, and the fans haven't told us yet they still want that. They still want that match. The ratings are still reflecting that. The crowd reactions are still reflecting that. So, yeah, I think you're getting that tag match. I think you're getting Sammy and Owens versus the Usos on, night one, and then, Cody and Reigns on night two or whatever. I don't know the nights, but yeah, you're right that there's a possibility that if you really, really wanted to, if you really said, all right, let's do something with this, and Reigns is down for doing it, you can have you can have Reigns on night one against Sammy and night two against Cody if you really, really wanted to. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the way that they're gonna go with this. And that's I don't know. I don't know if Reigns is into doing that either. There's a lot of ways, but like you said, they're not really in this weird position anyway because they have the guy that they want is over as fuck right now anyway with Cody. So they're kind of in a good spot here where they can really do no wrong with either of those two guys.
What's interesting about the Cody quarter hour is it was the top of hour 3, which typically is where the show begins its decline. Right. This increased by 200,000, over 200,000 total viewers, and about 100,000 people in the demo. I mean, it's just an unusual jump, especially for where it was positioned on the show. There was only one other quarter hour on the entire Raw that averaged over 2 million viewers. That was Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. So Brock, as we know, is always, the fallback option when they need to pop some numbers, and he's still delivering after all these years. But that was the top of hour 2, where it's much easier to draw because people haven't gone to bed yet. That third hour of Raw, I mean, traditionally just drops like a stone starting with that, 10 o'clock hour. So that makes the Cody quarter hour even all the more impressive. So it's a nice problem to have for WWE right now, with two guys that are this over going into the most important part of their year. And as we said, I mean, Raw overall, I mean, they were going to be down, and from let me see if I can find the exact figures. Oh, you have them, right? It's so anyway, they were down at 12% in total viewership and 13% in the demo from the week prior. So the thing now is, where is Raw's settle point? After the Raw 30 episode and, coming off hot, the Royal Rumble. Okay, now we're going to come back down to earth. It's just where is that level now? Right.
And it should still be noted, they were still ranked number 1 among cable originals, and number 4 if you include broadcast as well. That's from WrestleNomics too. So,
one point, they did nearly 1.9 million viewers at a 0.55.
Right, that's a good number.
I'm not saying they did a poor number, but I'm saying they weren't going to sustain those.
No.
I think everyone realized they weren't going to sustain those otherworldly numbers that they were putting up. The same for SmackDown. SmackDown this week was down too. Let me get the exact percentages. They were down 6% in total viewership and 10% in the demo. But again, no one's going to be mad at 2.4 million viewers and a 0.61. So, anyway, that's anything else on the WWE ratings?
No. I think I think we got those. So let's there's a few other interesting companies. New Japan I wanted to touch on real quickly, and then we can go to AEW here. And we've been following New Japan because we were kind of surprised when they put on the big time, main events of Wrestle Kingdoms on that Access show. All of a sudden, now a bunch of people are watching the show, and it's popping really good numbers or whatever. This was an interesting week because this week they showed the IWGP Junior Heavyweight 4-way from Wrestle Kingdom, and that got 58,000 viewers and a 0.01 in 18 to 49, which is strange because that's up 14% from where it was the prior week in total viewership, but down 22% in 18 to 49. That's a strange number. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about when the viewership gets that low, like in the 50,000 range, it's so susceptible to those wild percentage swings, because even if you only add a couple thousand viewers, you're talking about double-digit growth.
Right.
Or if you lose a couple thousand viewers, you're talking about, losing. The bottom line with the New Japan ratings is this. I mean, they did 7,000 viewers in the demo. It's just an insignificant. It's within the margin of error. Like, the margin of error is like 7,000 viewers. So they could have done anywhere from 0 to 14,000. So it's such a small number that it's completely unreliable when it gets that small. The bottom line with New Japan is this. What we suspected when they popped big numbers for the two co-main events is that you have to give credit to Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Jay White, because it's very clear that those two matches were, relatively speaking, in the context of Access TV and this television show, those two matches were big ratings draws. Now, what's disappointing for New Japan is that they haven't seemed to hold any of those viewers who said, all right, I'm going to pop in for these two big matches because they've, obviously Ospreay Okada has all this buzz. These are the main events of Wrestle Kingdom. I'm going to watch that.
Yeah.
They haven't held those people.
No, those people have not said, you know what, New Japan's back. I'm going to start watching the show every single week. They watched the matches that they wanted to see with the stars that they wanted to see, and then they've went away.
Yeah, they hit it and quit it is what they did. And because now New Japan is back doing numbers at the same level they were doing before, which, by the way, is quite easily the second best show on Access TV. So they're in a strong position on their network. You know what I mean? Like, the network has to be thrilled with New Japan's performance. But it's got to be a little disappointing for New Japan that they weren't able to, hold some of those viewers from those two big main events, even with other matches from Wrestle Kingdom, right? You can maybe soften the blow a little if they were done showing stuff from Wrestle Kingdom, but they're still showing Wrestle Kingdom matches, and they're right back to the levels that they were at. So, as always, we'll keep an eye on it, but it looks like, feather in the cap to Okada, Ospreay, Omega, and White, and and it looks like we're right back to their usual levels.
Rampage, interesting one for them this week. So they had a 406,000 viewers, 0.11 in the 18 to 49. That's down 11% in total viewership, and down 20% from last week's demo. And this is a fun little experiment that they did here, because we talked about it a couple weeks ago that we said, they need to go back to, featuring top guys on Rampage. And they went through a week of, a streak of, a month straight or whatever, where Moxley was it became the Moxley show for a little bit. And they said, hey, John Moxley's going to be on Rampage. John Moxley's going to be on Rampage. And those numbers ticked up almost immediately when they did that. We always talk about how when CM Punk was around, that was kind of his show. It wasn't just the first dance. They very regularly said CM Punk's going to be on Rampage. He's going to cut a promo. He's going to wrestle. They made him a focal point of that show for a lot of the weeks. And the numbers kind of reflected. Anytime that he was there, the numbers looked pretty good. They do that with Moxley, and they do get a little bit of numbers. And I think this may have been some sort of, I don't know if it was as deliberate as I'm laying out here, but they decided this week to just kind of go back to the Rampage that they were doing before they decided to throw Moxley on every single week. And, that was what happened, is people said, well, you know what? I'll skip this week. And they didn't watch. So I don't know. Rampage seems like it's going to always be this way. It's on the whims of who's on the show, who's on the card. And that's true of a lot of wrestling shows, but it seems most obvious with Rampage that if there's not a big time star or a big time match, then people are just going to say, you know what? I'll do something else on Friday.
Yeah. I mean, the trios match with the Elite was the highest quarter hour in total viewers and demo, and beat the average of the show by a pretty decent margin. But yeah, I mean, the main event was Christopher Daniels and Rush. The main event, really, Rampage, as we know, is booked in reverse. But, you get the idea. The last match that went on was Christopher Daniels and Rush, and that didn't do well at all. But I think what we're learning is, for all the flaws in Nielsen, and we all have issues with Nielsen, I don't think anybody argues that Nielsen...
We all know.
Yeah, no one argues that Nielsen is good or that their methodology is current, up-to-date, or flawless. But, it's what the industry uses, and as long as the industry is going to use it, we have to analyze it, right? if the television industry decided that the success of a TV show was measured by whether or not it was sunny that day, we'd have to analyze the weather. I mean, that's you just have to do
right. If people bought ads based off, oh, it was sunny today, so here's $1 million for ads for your television show, then that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
then that's what we have to analyze.
Right.
But I will say this about Nielsen. There must be some sort of method to their madness, so to speak, because what are the trends we've been talking about this whole segment? Stars are popping the quarter hours. Cody, Red Hot Sammy, the 2 Wrestle Kingdom main events, Moxley when he's on Rampage. I mean, that tells you that something Nielsen is doing is right, because that's how you would think it would be, right?
Right, maybe obsessing over the actual individual numbers themselves, and maybe that, because it's an approximation and this sort of stuff, but like the trends speak for themselves. The trends are obvious, and the trends speak to when there are stars on your show, people tend to watch it. It's a novel concept, indeed.
Yeah, so I mean, Nielsen can't be completely and utterly useless and out of date and non-functional, because you look at these quarter hours and when we're lucky enough to see minute by minutes, they're not random results. The stars are the ones that are spiking these quarters and these minutes. And in the larger macro sense, like in the case of Rampage, when they have more stars, Rampage does a better number. So, there's something there's angles where you can defend Nielsen, even though I think we all agree in this day and age, there has to be a better way. I mean, how do we have the technology we have and all the advancements we have in every other area, and we're still measuring television ratings essentially the same way we did in 1970? How is that possible? We have to, but I don't know. I guess they just have a stranglehold on the industry, and at some point you'd think we can get something that's
it feels
a little
like
more
every
accurate.
few years it's like these networks have come together and they're going to try to figure out a new way, and then you never hear about it again, and they just go back. So it must be different. It must be harder than we think it is. I don't know. I feel like as long as I've followed like the sports media, and this applies to wrestling and sports itself, it always seems like people are like, there's another way. We have to find another way, and then nobody ever does, and Nielsen just always continues to do it. But it boggles my mind, especially with like cable boxes and just the amount of data that people are just willingly able to give companies, give you, YouTube, Google, take everything you want. Alexa's great, cool, take it all. Like, we don't care. We're willy-nilly with our data. We don't give a shit. And yet it's still like TV ratings are still just the most innocuous, weird thing in the world. But who knows? Yeah, at some point something will, but I don't know. It feels like we've been hearing that for a very, very long time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And then last is Dynamite. They had 899,000 viewers on average and a 0.30 in the 18 to 49. That is pretty much no difference in terms of total viewership. I think it's like a 1,000-person difference, if that. It's a minimal difference in total viewers. And the 18 to 49 was down 2%. So pretty much nothing happened in ratings.
Yeah, 0.31, a 0.31, and then a 0.3. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, so the same in the viewers, same in the demo. Nothing really to talk about.
It's really, Dynamite was really just flat, and the quarter hours, to me, the one that sticks out like a sore thumb is Bryan Danielson versus Roosh, which it had one picture-in-picture ad, so it had no full-length commercial, no true commercial break, which helps. And it ate up the entire quarter hour, which was the top of the hour quarter hour, and it shot up dramatically from the previous quarter. In fact, it was the only quarter, it was one of 2 quarters on the show that had growth. The final quarter hour with the main event, but it was only 1,000 people. It was 779, and then the main event had 780, so it was essentially flat. The Danielson Roosh quarter hour shot up about 25, over almost 60,000 total viewers. So people were into the Danielson Roosh match. That was and really the rest of the show followed the trend line. It was really a totally non-notable ratings week for Dynamite, flat with the overall and demo. And then outside of that Danielson quarter hour, nothing else really stood out because everything else just followed the 4-week trend. Those 4-week trends that Brandon Thurston posts on WrestleNomics, which are very helpful. And the 1 quarter hour that looks like it really tanked had a full commercial break and a bunch of backstage stuff. So, it's like, that's why they look at minute by minutes, because when you have a full commercial break and a bunch of backstage stuff and only 7 minutes of wrestling, it's those kind of quarter hours are never going to do well, because, if you look at the minute by minutes, people turn the show off as soon as commercials come on, and anything that's not in the ring typically does worse. You rather, promos don't do as well as matches for AEW, but the ones in the ring do better than the ones stuff that's outside of the ring always has people changing the channel for whatever reason. And commercials. And that quarter hour, which was quarter hour 4, just had a ton of that, which explains why that quarter hour really tanked. But the Danielson match got everybody back. So other than that, there's really nothing to dissect with this week's Dynamite. I was struggling for things to talk about behind the paywall in that rating segment, because it's just,
essentially the same week to week numbers, like shockingly close week to week numbers. So no grand takes to be had from that Dynamite. But that Thursday Dynamite review, as you said, is available at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. It's a lot of different ways you can get to that, and a pretty fun episode of Dynamite. We're not going to do the whole Dynamite review here, but well,
what'd you think? No one ever cares what you think.
No, I thought it was a good show. I mean, the thing is okay. I always wonder about this, and if I ever quit my job or whatever, if I ever lost my job or whatever, one of the first things I would pitch to you is us doing instant reactions to Dynamite every single week. And I know that sometimes you don't watch it live or whatever, but I would like to do that, because I think we would either be the best immediate post Dynamite show that's out there, probably that, or the worst, because a lot of times I finish a Dynamite and I'm like, that was a damn good wrestling show, and then I'm like, I have nothing else to say, you know what I mean? Like, because with all these other people just twisting themselves into knots about, I likened it, I called it the Brandy segment, and that's when I filled in for you on a Thursday Dynamite review about a couple years ago. Obviously, this is when Brandy was still there. And I just kind of said, like, the thing with Dynamites is you get this like 2 hours and 45 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes of like really, really great show with good promos and good wrestling and all this sort of stuff. And then like there's like this 10 or 15 minutes that everybody then harps on the entire week. And just gets upset about, and it's the focal point of all the discourse from all the pundits is about that 10 to 15 minute segment or whatever. And that they just beat you over the head with it and beat you over the head with it and beat you over the head with it. And I feel like our show wouldn't do that. So I don't know if that's what people want out of their Dynamite reviews or recaps or whatever. I don't know. So it's like, I don't know if it would be a good show, because I tend to just watch the show and go, wow, that was really good. A lot of good matches, and hell, Takeshita and MJF, they kicked ass, and the Danielsons and Roosh was fantastic. So yeah, great show. And then, like, I don't know what else I would really have to say. I mean, I think you do a great job with the Thursday Dynamite reviews, but I often think, like, if I had to do this show, like, I don't have as many hot takes as other people do on Dynamite, because I just think it's a really good show usually.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll just, do the thing where I don't want to say creating a straw man, because it's not a straw man, but I'll just take all of those bad takes and then react to those takes. You know what I mean? When I can't, when and
that's what I meant. If we did a post show, like, we wouldn't know what the takes are just yet. So it'd be like you and me being like, yeah, that match, that was good. Like, MJF promo. Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. It was unique. Like, it's just, and the way that the beats of AEW are just a little different from other wrestling, and it freaks a lot of people out, and people don't like it, and people are very upset by it all the time, and that's not the way to do it. Why are they telling the story that way? Well, they're allowed to tell the stories however they fucking want to tell the stories. There's no way to tell the story. So I don't know. It's often, like, I don't people always say, Rich, we want your thoughts on Dynamite, and it's like, I don't know that my thoughts on Dynamite are that hot. Like, I watch the show every single week. I usually think it's pretty damn good, and they usually present a lot of really good wrestling matches, and yeah, there's like one or two things a show that I feel like I have some takes on, but I don't know. Otherwise, I just think it's a really, really solid show. It's on a really, really good run as well, but yeah, you wouldn't know that listening to everybody else talk about it.
There's a lot of frustrating analysis, because number one, there's this thing that seems to consume everyone, and that's what do they have to do to catch WWE? And that is such a defeating way to approach it. The answer is they don't have to catch WWE, at least not in the short term. Look, I said this at the time when they were starting to inch real close to Raw in the demo. That was more embarrassing for WWE than impressive for AEW, if that makes any sense. Okay? I'm not trying to shit on how well AEW was doing, when Punk was new and they were really clicking from a ratings perspective. And I guess, what was that, 2021? But it was really embarrassing for WWE to allow such a new company to be that close to them in the ratings for that period of time. Okay. And that was really the story more than AEW doing all this, catching up so quickly. It was more Vince is fucking old, washed up, doesn't get it anymore. And look how far he's fallen that a 2-year-old show is right on their heels. It was more embarrassing for them than impressive for AEW. And, right now, Sami Zayn is hot and Cody is hot, and they're putting up really strong ratings. And this idea that AEW isn't succeeding or can't be a success unless or until they catch WWE. I mean, it's this, everyone is stuck in this Monday Night War mindset.
Right. And it was a loser mindset then. It wasn't a good mindset for WCW to have. It ended up driving them into death. Like there was a point in 1998 where WWF had passed. I mean, yes, it helped them get to where they got to in 96 and 97 or whatever. Okay, great. How many times are we going to bring back fucking 1996 and 1997? Stop. Like, enough already. And then you look at 98 and 99, and WCW was still successful, but it consumed them that they were not beating WWE anymore. We're not winning the war anymore. So instead of just being content with the business that they were doing, which was still really good, they were still making a ton of money, they went nuts and did a bunch of things and did crazy things. We got to win the ratings. We got to win the ratings. We got to win the ratings. And it didn't help at all. And it's a really, really bad mentality to have, especially for a company that's just a few years old, is no, do your thing, get your new TV deal, do whatever you can to grow your TV. But yeah, you should not be thinking about how do we beat WWE. You don't have to beat WWE. You need to grow right now and get that second television deal, get that big money deal. And then maybe you can be a little bit more comfortable about, okay, you know what? Next benchmark. Let's go for this. Let's go for that. But until you sign that big paper TV deal, no, you're trying to get that. That's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, the show is great. I mean, the show is. I don't know if people realize how great Dynamite is on a week-in, week-out basis.
That was every time I fill in for you on Thursday TV reviews. That's what I say. Is I'm just like, do you guys realize how good this show is? That every single week on free television and TBS, you can turn on TBS and get at the very least, you get one tremendous, awesome wrestling match every single week. Most times it's 2, and sometimes it's more than that. It's absurd.
This week it was 3. This week there were 3.
I know, it's stupid.
The show is so good. It's like a mini pay-per-view every week in terms of match quality. So that piece of discourse is just so
annoying. And the
annoying.
dorks pretend that that's bad for some reason. Like, they like it. The people watching like it, but they pretend that like you always say, the casual fan isn't going to like. Okay, the casual fan doesn't like Roosh and Brian Danielson kicking ass while the crowd goes nuts. All right, fine. All right, cool.
Well, that leads me to why. Okay, so the first annoying piece of discourse is, what do they have to do to catch WWE, which inevitably leads to you're not successful unless you can catch WWE, which is just completely false. And the second annoying piece of discourse is that the show doesn't tell stories. And we've talked about this a million times, but you just look at last night and you had, this idea that they just throw matches out there. The matches are great, but they're just throwing matches out there for the sake of having matches. People need stories. I mean, literally look at last night, MJF Takeshita, which, they planted the seeds 4 weeks ago and is part of this whole MJF Bryan Danielson story, right? So very clearly that match had a story, right? Then you have the Ricky Starks gauntlet, which he's been feuding with Chris Jericho for a month and a half or something. And very obviously that match had a story. Roosh and Bryan Danielson, Danielson's last obstacle he has to get through to face MJF at the pay-per-view. The whole through line of last night's show was MJF trying to prevent Danielson from winning this match.
Right. It couldn't be more of a story. It couldn't be more of a story.
Yeah, like this is, so, I mean, obviously that one, was just thick with fucking story that, he got locked in the trainer's room and everything else, and then had to overcome Roosh, and then MJF attacking him afterwards. Like the first fucking 2/3 of the show was the MJF Bryan Danielson story, and then you had obviously the main event with the Guns and the Acclaimed. Those guys have been feuding for months, and then the Guns fucking cheat their way into the titles and everything. So the Elite and AR Fox and Top Flight. Well, AR Fox and Top Flight won that Trios Battle Royal, and then Top Flight beat the Bucks to earn the Trios title shot. So maybe that isn't as long-term of a story as the Guns and the Acclaimed or MJF and Bryan Danielson.
Why are we pretending that every television wrestling show was thick with month-long stories every single week? Like, what are we doing?
But that's the thing. Every match on this show was.
I agree. I know, but it's like, but the Bucks and that was only a couple weeks. They're not telling stories. I don't know. The thing with AEW is I honestly sometimes wish they did tell less stories and just had cool as fuck matches. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? I just want to see Ricky Starks in a cool fucking match. I don't need JAS, running in or whatever. Just let's have Ricky Starks face somebody, beat him, and say, all right, I'm coming for you, Jericho. Next time I see you, I'm coming. Like sometimes I kind of wish they did that. They're so thick, but I don't know. Crazy pills. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I hear people talk about AEW.
That'd probably be better than doing the gauntlet story thing. Right.
Just have Ricky Starks beat a geek and say, all right, Jericho, next time you're here, I'm going to whoop your ass just like I whooped this guy's ass. The end. Like, that's enough for me, But
my point here is this isn't even unusual. You can go look at any Dynamite ever. And, now the only match on the show that you can argue didn't have a story coming in was Bunny versus Hater, because they just set it up with a backstage promo the week before.
Right.
Which, by the way,
it's fine. That's okay.
It's fine.
Those standards are okay.
Which every company in the world does that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like that match that wasn't even just a cold match that was just thrown together, because that was Bunny saying, hey, I want your title. I'd like to challenge you to a match next week to earn a title shot. That's your story. But all right, I'll even give you that one. Even if I give you that one, 80% of the matches last night had a long-term story going into them, and people will insist it's just shit people say. It's shit people say because they get it from people like Bischoff and all these other clowns who are just out there, and I hate to use the overterm phrase, but they're grifting because they know there's a market for people who want to hear, the anti-AEW stuff, so they hammer it home. It's just a lie. I mean, and this isn't an outlier week. I can do this for any week of Dynamite. Typically a Dynamite has 5 matches. At least 4 out of the 5 matches are part of long-term stories every week, Rich. So I don't even know where this stuff comes from.
Either.
It's just, and it's, and of course that all equals doom, because all AEW does is put out cold matches that are meant for work rate geeks that have no story to them. So inevitably they're going to die, even though their ratings are steady as fuck. I mean, they're doing pretty well right now. I mean, yeah. So I don't know, that's what gets frustrating. And I don't like to spend my whole review counteracting that kind of stuff, but sometimes it's hard to ignore. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes it feels like you have to be the voice of reason in a sea of insanity.
Right. And I guess that's if we did do a Dynamite post show or whatever, I guess that's what we would do, is just be like, this was good. This segment was also good. And that's, I guess, the sea of reason is the voice of reason is saying, that match that was really good, and this is how they built it up, and this is the story they told, and this is the story that came in, and this is the story that came out. So I guess that's what it would be. But alas, that's not happening just yet. But we'll see what ends up happening.
The only thing that sucked on Dynamite last night was Leva Bates. It's the only thing that sucked. I thought the rest of the show ranged from incredible, some of the best TV wrestling you'll ever see, to it was okay, right?
Right. I didn't love the gauntlet. I didn't love the gauntlet, but it's fine. It's okay.
It's fine. It was a nice next step in that story.
Right. But the Gauntlet, I just got done watching, Takeshita and MJF kick ass. And I was just about to watch Roosh and Bryan Danielson have just a fucking spectacular TV wrestling match. Like, I'll get over the Gauntlet. You know what I mean? It was like, that was all right. I'll get over it. I'll get over Leva Bates because I just saw Roosh and Bryan Danielson have a 18-minute match on free television. I'll get over it. It'll be okay. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
MJF talked about getting Roadhead. Oh my God. I'll get over that. It's fine. He's a heel. It's okay. He's a heel. He's a bad guy. He's a dork. That's what you're supposed to think.
Yeah, and I don't know. And I'm a grown man. I can handle someone talking about a blowjob.
Oh my God.
I mean, why are we pearl clutching this all of a sudden?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't mind my pro wrestlers talking like adults talk.
Right. I'll take that over fucking Vengeance Day, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Oh my God.
Dialogue that they have in that show. Good God.
Yeah. But
all I've ever wanted to do in my entire life is be a WWE superstar.
Roxanne Perez shit.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is my entire life's goal, is to be a WWE superstar, and now I am the NXT Women's Champion. Okay. You can take, if you want that, great. Good for you. I want fucking MJF talking about getting Roadhead. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want out of my wrestling. Call me old-fashioned, Joe. I'll take that.
Her goal in life is to get to the main roster so Michael Cole can say she likes to have fun. That's her goal in life. Yeah. I don't know. But I guess got any more on these? I guess we're done with the ratings. Huh?
No, we are done with the ratings. So one quick thing I wanted to get into, a little bit of a thought experiment that I was thinking about on Tuesday, actually. And then, as we were talking about the ratings on MLW Underground and NXT and stuff on Tuesday night, I was thinking about this while watching the LeBron James scoring record game, and I watched the entire thing, and obviously I wanted to be there to see the history of LeBron James, setting the record, beating Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's mark that stand for 38 years or whatever. Pretty much never gonna get beaten. Like that record feels now like it's going to be completely ridiculous for anybody to get. We covered it on the Over and Back podcast, which I also host, overandbacknba.com, and we kind of ran some of the numbers, and it's like nobody that's in the league right now has any chance of doing it. There's just no way. I mean, the way that people play these days, the amount of games that people play, even if they did play more, it's absurd. For anybody to get there, it's absurd. And this guy's going to continue to add points to the total as well. Like, he's not done. He's going to keep playing and keep adding points. So it seems just about impossible for anybody to do this. But what I was thinking about when I was watching that game, and I thought, this would be an interesting thing to touch on or talk about with Joe on the flagship this week, is many times while watching LeBron play, I've had the thought of, right now, as I'm sitting here watching this game, I'm watching one of the best players to ever play basketball. I'm watching one of the best NBA players in history. If you want to call him the best, knock yourself out. I think I'm at the point now where there's three people that you can say are your greatest of all times. I'm not interested in getting into the debate, but if you say Jordan and you say Kareem and you say LeBron, any of those three, I'm cool with. That's fine, whatever. But I think you're justified in any of those three choices at this point. But I'm sitting there, and and especially on Tuesday night, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I am watching one of the best basketball players ever, and I've been able to have a front row seat to this guy's entire career. I'm sitting here right now, and I'm watching a history-making performance, and I'm seeing one of the best guys ever. I am living through this, and it made me think about, in wrestling, how many times you've been watching somebody, and maybe who are those names of people that you've watched and said, you know what, that guy right there is one of the best to ever do it. That guy right there that I'm watching right now on my television is one of, if not the best guys that I've ever seen at this thing, at this wrestling. This guy right here. And I'm trying to think, and I'm talking not like going back and watching, like not, for me, I didn't live through Misawa. I watched Misawa knowing, hey, this guy's great, and I'm going to go back and watch old Misawa tapes. And it's like, oh yeah, that guy's great. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Kabashi. So, I didn't watch them live. I wasn't sitting down on my couch and going, whoa, that dude, that guy is one of the, I already knew. Everybody knew he was great. And when I watched him, it was already well established that everybody thought that this guy was one of the greatest of all times. But what I mean is, like, in real time, watching a guy and saying, that dude right there, that's it. That's the truth. That guy is one of the best ever at this. How many times do you think you've done that watching wrestling? And truly not just like, that guy's one of the best right now, but like that dude is one of the all-timers right there that I'm watching. I am lucky to be able to sit on my couch or sit or whatever, and I'm watching one of the best guys that's ever been at this sport. I'm watching him right now. How many times do you think you've done that in your wrestling watching career? And how many guys are there, I guess? I would be another question.
3. I can think of 3.
Okay. What do you got?
Ric Flair. I think Will Ospreay right now and over the since about 2019 is maybe the best and most consistent singles wrestler I've ever seen in my life. And right up there with anybody ever. So Ric Flair, Will Ospreay, and Bryan Danielson over various points of his career. I would say all 3 of those guys, there have been times where I've watched them and thought to myself, I am watching, and I think this is the essence of what you're asking me. Tell me if I'm wrong. And where I have thought to myself while watching them in real time, I am watching maybe the greatest person to ever do this. Right this second.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And I've had that thought watching all 3 of those guys at various points of their career over, like, listen, and I'm not talking over, one incredible match or, where I've sat there
and
and
can't just be like, oh, that's one of the great performances of all time. That's like in the midst of watching that guy, you're like, God damn, how lucky am I that I'm watching this dude right now? This is what I am lucky. I'm going to be able to tell generations later that I was alive and watching that dude at the peak of his fucking powers. That's one of the best guys to ever do this.
And the Young Bucks as a tag team. I mean, sometimes I watch the Young Bucks and I just think to myself, this is ridiculous. They're the greatest tag team of all time. I'll be watching them wrestle and I'll think of the Case Lowe article and I'm like nodding along.
Yeah.
Like, yep. I like, he's obviously right. Like they're, that's it.
It should be a small list, by the way. For anybody doing this experiment at home, it should be a small list. If your list is more than 10 people, then you're not watching the greatest guys to ever do it. You know what I mean? Like, it should be a very, very, very small list of guys.
Now, here's where I shit on some all-time greats, and people get mad.
Oh, I was going to do it too. I was going to do it too, so I'm glad. Go for it.
I'll do we won't steal each other's thunder. Who wants to go first? We'll give one guy at a time.
Go first. You're on a roll. Go for it.
I have never watched Kazuchika Okada and thought to myself, he might be the greatest wrestler I've ever seen.
See, I think I disagree. I think when I've seen that guy at times, I've said that's one of the best guys to ever do it.
Yeah. Oh, he's won it. No. Okay. All right. That's 2 different.
Oh, you're
things.
saying okay. Okay. No, but I do think that. No, let me rephrase that. I have watched Okada at times and said I'm lucky that I'm watching this guy, and I think a lot of it is because I saw his entire thing.
Yeah.
Similar to LeBron. Like I watched LeBron's high school game, that first high school game that appeared on ESPN, and said, oh boy, that guy's pretty good. Okay, cool. And then been able to watch the entire career. So I think that might be where I settle a little bit different of Okada is that, and I know you watched the whole run as well, but for some reason I've always attached my fandom in a lot of ways to Okada, my fandom of Japanese wrestling. So I think watching him and saying, hey, you know what, I've seen this guy from his re-debut in New Japan Pro Wrestling to where he is now, and whatever that night is, whether it be a Wrestle Kingdom or whatever, and said that dude right there, that's it, that's the truth right there. That's if not the one, absolutely top tier dudes, one of the best to ever do it. I'm watching one of a very, very rare class of people. I see that with Okada. And I get why you don't. I totally do. But I've felt that way about Okada.
I think Okada is one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen. But unlike the 3 guys I mentioned, I've seen him have disappointing matches. And I don't know if I could sit here and tell you that since about 2019, Will Ospreay's ever had a singles match that wasn't at minimum very good. That's just ridiculous. It's stupid. No one should be that good. And they're usually great. And come match of the year time, it's like, or wrestler of the year, you look at his resume and you're like, he has more great matches in a year than like legitimate Hall of Fame all-time greats have had in their entire careers. He's just outlandishly good.
Yeah, well, we just watched in 2022, and that's, we try to make it And we've tried to say it at the time too. Like, you're watching something special. This is like a 1-on-1 thing. And the other thing too is like, this guy, it's not like he had just one good year. He's had a lot of good years before and after that as well. But what we saw last year was just otherworldly what he was able to do. And yeah, he is another guy on my list that I'm like, when I'm done, yeah, especially after the year that he just had, I watch that guy and I'm like, I am so fucking lucky that I'm watching this guy right now.
I don't really think about, like, people love to do all-time lists, and every 5 years they do the greatest wrestler ever, over at PWO or whatever. And I've never participated in that. I could never sit there and make a list of the 100 best wrestlers.
I'm not wired that way. It's just not
I'm not knocking it. I just can't do it. I'm incapable of doing it. I'm too indecisive. I can't split those kind of hairs. If I were to do it at this point, I don't know if I could have Ospreay out of a top 10. I really don't think I could. Like, it would feel silly. I mean, I don't know. Definitely not out of a top 15 or top 20. I mean, that for sure. And Ric Flair, I mean, I didn't watch the first half of Ric Flair's career in real time, but I watched Ric Flair in real time from about 1986 or 1987. And, from about 87 to 90, he really changed in that first WWF run. But was still great. He's another one where it's like, you watch his 1989, for example, and you're like, you can't, someone might be as good as this, but it's impossible for someone to be better than this, is what you're thinking when you're watching that. And Danielson, obviously the 06 run in ROH and what he's doing now. I mean, you put Bryan Danielson in a TV match now, the floor it's going to fucking rock. I mean, it doesn't matter who he's in there with. And he's just a step above even other great wrestlers. And again, I think Okada's an all-time great, but I've seen him have matches with Sonata. I've seen him, there's examples you can find where it's like,
and he does have a formula too, which I get that some people do tire of that like you said, sometimes you watch an Okada match and it's like, I've seen this match like 10 times already. I don't really need to, especially the ones that are really boring or whatever. Like you said, the Sonata ones, you're just like, I've seen this one. I get it. I totally do. I think he is still on my list, but I absolutely get where you or anybody else would come from.
Yeah. For a guy who I'd probably only have like 9th all time or something.
Right. Right. Yeah. We're shitting on guys that like it's in your top 15 of all time, wrestlers. But my list is small. My list is 4 people that I immediately came up with. And I guess the Young Bucks is a great call. I did not think of the Young Bucks, but that's it. That's one of them too. Where I'm watching,
probably leave tag teams out of it, right? I mean,
right. But that they belong in there if you want to include tag teams, because it's just like, fuck, these guys are just like what we're watching right now. No other tag team has ever or will ever. What they've done over the last decade, hell, 15 years you can add at this point. It's just like, fucking no, it's nobody. And
they'll have another great match on TV next week.
Of course.
I mean,
and they're not done. They continue to go, but it's like every time like you said, the Case Low article, are we sure the Young Bucks aren't the greatest tag team of all time? Like, that runs in my head too, because I'll especially if I go there live, like I'll go to a live AEW show and the Young Bucks will wrestle and they'll finish the match and I'm like, fuck these guys. They're just always good. I've been watching these assholes for 15 years and they're just, every time they're good. Always good. It's just like, fuck you, guys. It's just, it's stupid how good they are. It's just insane. And I get that feeling when I'm done watching them. I'm like, God damn, how lucky am I that I've been able to watch these guys as much as I've been able to watch these guys. They're just so clearly better than any other tag team that's ever existed. It's just, it boggles my mind. So my list is Okada, Omega. I have that with Kenny Omega a lot of times. Mm-hmm. Where I've just said, like, fucking Christ, there's, and you go back, the thing I get, real time, I felt it with Omega, and then you go back and watch matches and you think, God, did they actually hold up? And then I watch one from like, him versus Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, and it's like, fucking Christ, man, this guy's just, it's unbelievable. So mine's Okada, Omega, Danielson, and I think that's it. I said 4, but I think it's 3.
You get 4, maybe.
What the hell? I think
I only named 3.
I think it's just 3. It's 3.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, and that, like, people might be thinking, well, what about Stone Cold Steve Austin? Like, I watched Stone Cold Steve Austin in real time, and like, I never, he was a dynamo but I never thought like, oh man, I'm lucky. Here I am watching. I just the way I watched Stone Cold was different.
From the standpoint of watching an enormous star.
Right. When I was watching him, I was like, this guy is an otherworldly star or whatever. But yeah, it didn't have the same, like, looking back at it now, here's the thing I'll say about Austin. First off, I was like 10, so it's like, I didn't quite grasp the history in front of me when I was watching him, but everybody was over as fuck at that time. Like, you go to Nitro and everybody was over, and you go to Raw and The Rock is over and the Austin's over and all that. Like, now in hindsight, it looks even more ridiculous when you see that like 7 people clapping is like, Liv Morgan's over. Like, listen to that crowd. And then you watch Stone Cold and it's like, oh no, that's over. That's a dude that's over. At the time, I'm sure if I was a little older, I could have appreciated it, but when I was like 10, I didn't quite appreciate that the glass broke and 20,000 people all went fucking haywire. Like, I just, but it's a different type of argument here. I didn't watch Stone Cold and say, that's one of that's the greatest to ever do it. I'm watching him right now. I never felt that with him. Never felt that with The Rock. Enormous stars, obviously, but never felt like, oh, these are otherworldly, figures or whatever, the way I do with some of those in-ring guys. I'm trying to think of anybody else that, like, Bret Hart is a guy that I love, going back and watching old Bret Hart matches. But when I was, I started really, really watching wrestling when I was, like 95, 96, 97. So it's like, I didn't quite grasp it. So, and even then, I don't know. Like, I love Bret Hart, but
yeah,
I never thought I was like, dude, this dude right now. Right? It's in real time. It's all, and that's what we're saying. The thought experiment isn't going back and watching a guy. It's in real time. Watch a guy and a match is over, and you're just like, fuck, I just watched one of the greatest ever. Like, that dude is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of guys I watched in real time where it felt like people in the upper deck were in danger of falling to their death because it'd be The Rock and Hulk Hogan. Not The Rock, Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan. The Rock was kind of a different thing. I'm not saying, look, obviously he's the fucking Rock, but he was more of just a charismatic force who can hold the attention of a room. Whereas Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan were, you heard the glass break, or you heard the first couple beats of Real American, and 20,000 people just completely lost their shit and forgot that they were adults and just lost their minds. The Rock wasn't really that. The Rock was the same, but a little different in that The Rock would come out and he'd get the big pop, but then he'd grab the microphone and he would control 20,000 people for the next 8 minutes on the mic. Or he would wrestle a match and control the room with his mannerisms and the way he structured the match for the next 12 to 20 minutes, which was kind of a different thing than getting the Hulk Hogan pop or getting the Steve Austin pop, where so it wasn't quite the same. It was a little different. Austin and Hogan were just a different level in terms of being able to pop a building more than anybody else I've ever seen. So I'm trying to think. Cena wasn't at that level.
No, never.
But again, this is a different argument than what you're talking about, which is greatness at the craft of pro wrestling. Rather than
star power. Yeah, this is one of the biggest stars I've ever seen. I'm talking about like that dude is better at this than everybody else. Like, this guy is one of the best at doing whatever this thing is more than anybody. Yeah, like the way I felt about LeBron many times throughout his career. I'm just like, holy crap, I'm watching, like, in real time, I'm watching the greatest player of all time, like, apply his craft. Like, this is insane. This is crazy. I'll be able to say this for generations later. I'll be able to say, yeah, you know what? I was able to watch him live. I was able to be at a game where he was at, like stuff like that, it just hit me a little different watching that game and thinking, man, I wonder how many times I've truly felt that way about wrestling. And I really thought about it, and I thought my list was going to be a lot bigger. And then I realized, well, it shouldn't be that big. It should only be a couple people that you really truly think are in the another pantheon of greatness. So yeah, it's both of us, very, very small lists. And I'm curious what listeners, if they do that experiment as well, in real time, watching a guy and thinking, man, that dude is just the greatest at this thing that I've ever seen.
Inoki had that. People are going to have a stroke, going bonkers for this guy thing. But I wasn't watching Inoki.
Right, you wasn't watching in 1971 in Japan. So right. I can't say.
That was all hindsight watching it later. But he also had that thing where crowds just completely got lost in themselves as soon as he would come out. But again, but again, this is who did we live through? So I can't put him in there.
Right. And I think and there's a few people in the No chat room saying like, well, as a kid, I really like that. But as a kid, I don't think that people that you like as a kid can really, because you can't properly grasp the historical significance of people. I lived in Chicago in the 90s with Michael Jordan. I never fully grasped what I was watching. My parents were watching the Bulls, and I would go, "Yeah, the Bulls." You know what I mean? I wore a Bulls jersey, and I love the Bulls, but I didn't know what I was really watching. I didn't know what I was seeing. I just knew, Michael Jordan's playing, and the Bulls are winning. They won another championship. Cool. Like you can't grasp that. You know what I mean? Like you cannot possibly, as a 9-year-old, grasp the historical significance of what you're seeing in front of you. You can as an adult. You can as a teenager. You know, like a late teenager. So that's why LeBron for me is different than Jordan. Where I lived in Chicago in the 90s during Jordan. Yes, I should think. But like I wasn't watching Jordan that way. I wasn't a student of the game like I am now, where I'm like, holy crap, like what this guy is doing is just insane. And yeah, same thing with wrestling. Like I watched Bret Hart in 1995 or whatever, but I didn't know what I was watching. I was just like, hey, all right, cool, Bret Hart's cool. You know, like it's just different when you're an adult.
Yeah. Chris Russo always talks about, he's like, if you were under the age of 12, it doesn't really count. Like you can't really say that you understood.
Yeah, you're an idiot. You're just like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's just you like to watch stuff and be there or whatever.
Like, all right, you saw it, and maybe with the benefit of hindsight, you can now attach context to what you watched when you were 10, or when you were 8, or when you were 6. But when you were 10 or 8 or 6, you didn't have the context to attach to it. You're doing it retroactively. Whereas, I guess that's a pretty good age to put it on, because once you start hitting your teens, I think that's when you can start understanding a little the historical context behind things and everything. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. Just something I was thinking about. It's 11 p.m. watching LeBron set an all-time NBA record there. So I thought it'd be an interesting discussion for the flagship. So yeah, curious what people think as well. Let us know in the comments on YouTube, or go to the Discord, voicewrestling.com/Discord as well. Let us know what you think about that. Don't tweet us because we're not going to look at it, and Twitter stinks. So do it other ways. Do it other methods. So voicewrestling.com/Discord, or go to those YouTube comments and do it there. So let's get to other wrestling, Joe. Sorry, real quickly. You got a prediction for the big game, Mr. NFL Intelligentsia? Or are you just sitting down and watching? Because you don't do an NFL Intelligentsia for the Super Bowl, right?
No, we shut it down a week into the playoffs. NFL Intelligentsia is totally dependent on how much wrestling shit I have to do. Like, the wrestling's always going to come first. The NFL show, people really like it. And I think that Jesse does a tremendous job. I think we play off each other very well. But it's true bonus content. It's truly, because the name of the game on our paywall is wrestling. So, the 1 week we did the Observer Hall of Fame reaction show on the night where I usually record the NFL show. And then honestly, as the playoffs progress, there's less to talk about. And I'm like the opposite. I'm someone who would much rather break down week 4 than talk about the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No. The week-to-week adjustments is a lot cooler than like I get the same way about like playoff basketball. Once playoff basketball comes, like, because I'm really down to like regular season. Okay, this trend of this team and this. Once the playoffs start, it's just like I don't know, man. Like they fucking play the games and things happen. Like I just want to watch the games. Like that's kind of where I don't know. I don't get as into that. Like whereas I'll discuss how a team is progressing in January or whatever in the NBA more so than like how they're in the playoffs. I just kind of, I don't know. It's like, the team's better than the other team. They're winning the playoff series. I don't know. I lose a little bit of the analysis aspect of it and just kind of want to be a fan again.
Like there's less to talk about with less games. I don't know. I'm more interested in like,
especially like the Super Bowl. Like who wants to hear you be like, yeah, I think in the trenches, I think the Chiefs are. It's like shut up. Who cares?
Oddly enough, Rich, this game will be decided in the trenches. But I see the point that you're making. It's even. Look, it's a 1.5 point spread, and I think that's fair because I think these teams are very evenly matched. Look, if you were going to put a gun to my head, I'm not betting against Pat Mahomes. I'll just put it that way. So if I had to take a side, if I had to put a sizable amount of money or something like that, I would take the Chiefs. But, am I super confident in that pick? No, I am not.
Well,
does that kind of sum it up?
It does, yeah. I said the big game, and I forget we do not have to say the big game because we got DraftKings sponsoring the Voice Wrestling Podcast. And we could say Super Bowl, and we can also say go to the DraftKings Sportbook. Use that code VOW. What do you do? $5 and you get 200 in free bet. Not for 200 in bonus bets, right?
Bonus bets. Don't say the other word.
Said the F word. Don't say the F word. Can't say that. But DraftKings Sportsbook, code VOW. $5 and you get 200 in bonus bets if you use that promo code. Right. So there you go.
Yes.
I forgot. We could say the Super Bowl. I'm glad. All right. Let's get to real sports instead of that bullshit football. Let's talk about NXT Vengeance Day. The premium live event from the NXT brand. Yeah, I finished it, and I didn't think it was bad. I also didn't think it was good. I don't know. Did you think this was where did you stand on? I think there was some stuff to like about Vengeance Day, and there was some other stuff that I absolutely hated and made me realize why I don't watch week to week NXT.
I thought Wesley Dijak was great.
Yes. When that match opened up the show, I was like, all right, hold on a minute. We got a hot crowd because they're not in the Performance Center or the Capitol Wrestling Center. They were in I don't remember what the arena's called, where the Hornets play, the Charlotte Arena or whatever. So it was a hot crowd. It was a decent sized crowd too. So when that Wesley and Dijak match, and they went like 17 minutes and it kicked ass. It was really good. And the crowd was hot. And I was like, all right, hold on a minute. This might be pretty fun. And that was the best match on the entire show, right? Would you agree?
Oh, not
by far.
close.
I mean, not even close, right? Like far and away.
Everything else kind of just existed. I thought Dijak was phenomenal in that match, and he spent most of it selling. He is a legit. What is he like? What's he a legit 6'5"? What's he build at?
Let me see what he's build at. I thought they used to. Well, somebody used to build him at 6'7", and he's not 6'7".
Probably not 6'7".
It says 6'7" here. He's not 6'7". I think he's 6'5", 6'4", 6'5".
He's a big motherfucker.
He's huge. Have you ever seen him in person?
He's massive.
Especially at indie shows. You're like, who the fuck is that guy? Because most indie guys, like you show up to an indie show and you're like, oh, all these guys are like my height. Like nobody is tall. Everyone's short. And then Dijak walks in the room and you're like, that motherfucker's huge. So yeah, he's easy 6'4", 6'5", easy.
Huge guy. And Wesley is not a big man at all.
No.
Wesley is
one of those people that I said, you walk in the room and you go, look at that guy. That guy is
You
short,
walk in and like, oh, all these guys are tiny.
Yeah, they bill him at 5'10". I can assure Wesley is not 5'10".
And even if he is, Dijak is still a much larger man than Wesley. But Wesley really controlled the majority of this match. He was on the offensive for most of this match, which was a weird way to structure it because you would think that Dijak, as the bigger guy and as I guess he's the heel, it's hard to tell sometimes, but Wesley is firmly a babyface. We know that.
Yes.
But you would think that Dijak would have been beating him down and you would have done some hope spots. And, that would be the obvious structure of a match like this, but it wasn't. Wesley was just a frenetic ball of energy the entire bout. And Dijak was bumping all over the place for this guy.
Yeah, he made him look like $1 million.
And even with the size disparity, it didn't look cartoonish at all. He like you just said, he made Wesley look great. And it really looked like Wesley was just beating the shit out of this guy, even though it was a lot of flippy doos.
Right, but it wasn't that like you and I we're the only people on the earth that did not like the Rey Mysterio title run where he was like the little tiny underdog that would just flip around and little he's not you can't catch him because he's too fast and he's bouncing all over the ring and the tall guys are like whoa what do I do, he's too fast or whatever. That wasn't the case with this match.
Or Rey would just get beat up the whole match and win with a roll up or a banana peel.
Right, that's fucking sucked, and that
it really wore out its welcome quickly. I didn't like that at all. But anyway, go ahead.
But that wasn't how this match. Well, it wasn't the traditional big man, little man. Oh my God, the little guy's faster and the big guy's doesn't know how to keep up. Like they did a little bit of that, but that wasn't it was a fight. Like these dudes fought, and Wesley, yes, he had to use his speed and his athleticism to beat Dijak. But for people that did not watch this match, it was not your paint by numbers, big man, small man match at all.
No, and I thought Dijak was super impressive in bumping around for a smaller guy and it not coming off like a mockery. it just looked like Wes Lee was the better fighter, and Dijak couldn't figure him out. And I just thought Dijak was so good here. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, how does this company, he's been there like half a decade now, and they can't figure out what to do with a guy this big and with a look who looks the way he does and can work like this. And they can't figure out something to do with this guy. Like, we're back at step one. He's back in developmental, trying a new gimmick again. I mean, what the fuck? This is a perfect example of the company being so big and having too many cooks. I mean, this is just a guy where you take a deep breath and you look at the tools he has and you just push him, and it's amazing to me that it's like they're just shrugging their shoulders and saying, all right, you're going to work openers in the developmental brand.
Right. This is the ultimate, we have nothing for you, but you're too good to release. So just, work openers against Wesley. Have fun.
I mean, my God, I would love to get my hands on this guy if I were a promoter or a booker or something like that. And, maybe he still needs to find his charisma. I do think there's some truth to that. Like, he has to find something in him, but he's got everything else. He's got the rest. The rest of it's like a cheat code with his look and his size and his ability and his athletic ability and the things he can do in the ring, right down to his ability to sell like he did here. I don't know. This is a guy I'd be putting resources behind. Like, they should put as much effort into this guy as they put into Baron Corbin. Why does Baron Corbin get the effort he gets?
Right.
Clearly, this guy's upside is much higher.
Right. And it's a classic example, too, of accentuate the positives and hide the negatives. Okay, the guy's not a charisma magnet or whatever. That's fine. Then give him a manager. In other eras of this company, in other eras of pro wrestling, they would see a guy like this that has almost all of the tools and say, all right, you know what? Fuck it. Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of charisma, but that's fine. We can work around that. But look at him. I mean, he's this size. He's this, He's good at he's good at selling. He's good at offense. He looks like $1 million. He's got a big, build. It's like there's so many things you could do with this guy. And because of either a lack of effort or they just don't see it, or like you said, the one aspect of him that isn't great, they just, we got nothing for this guy. What are we gonna do with him?
I thought this was the best WWE match of the year so far. I couldn't think of a better one. So
better than anything I saw at the Rumble for sure.
There was nothing on the Rumble. Now, granted, I haven't watched every second of every TV, but I've seen all the stuff that people have pointed me to. And nothing was better than this. Nothing in NXT has been better than this. I can't think of a better. If any of the listeners have a suggestion. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull something up real quick. What was the date on? I know you're going to laugh at me, but Gunther. Well, I mean, it's Gunther, so it shouldn't be a surprise versus anyone, right? He had a match versus Braun Strowman on SmackDown. I want to see what the date was on. Okay, that was on January 13th. That wasn't as good as this Wes Lee Dijak match, but it was really fucking good.
I've heard good things about it.
Okay, first of all, it's Gunther. And he's like money. He's never going to have a bad match. Braun, it's funny. I like Dijak. I think like maybe the best thing he does is sell. That guy is so underrated. Selling. And for a guy like who's his gimmick is that he's a monster. He's the monster among men. He's an absurdly huge human being. He's booked like a monster. He, under the previous regime, he was just taught to run through people. But I've watched him a couple times now on SmackDown against Gunther, and what has stood out to me about Braun Strowman is his selling. And it's weird because a guy that size, you don't really want him to sell that much, right? Like that's almost counter.
Right. In another era, he gets to the back and people would yell at him for selling too much. Like the Giant always used to get that. Like, what the hell are you doing, dude? Like, don't sell. You should never be on your back. You're the Giants. Like, you should never be selling. Don't do drop kicks. Don't sell. Like, be big. But yeah, it is interesting with Strowman. I have noticed that from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a really good Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match on that same SmackDown, but it ended with the DQ, which really wasn't a bad finish because they were setting up stuff for the pay-per-view and it made sense. But from just a strictly nerdy match quality perspective, it hurt the match a little. But other than that, I mean, I don't think there's been a WWF, what is this, 1983? There hasn't been a WWE match this year better than Wesley Dijak for my money. I thought it was the best match on this show, and I think it was the best match in the company, in the first 40 days of the year or whatever.
Yeah, it was really, really good stuff. The 17 minutes flew by, too. I can't believe now looking at the match times, I thought that the women's tag match was longer than this match, and somehow Wesley and Dijak was 10 minutes longer than the women's tag, which seems unbelievable. Now, and I guess we'll get to that women's tag. It was Fallon Henley and Kiana James defeating the longest reigning women's tag team champions in WWE history, Katana Chance and Caden Carter. Fallon Henley rolls up Katana Chance, and Kiana James helps and holds her legs down, and that's how they get the win. And they're still not quite on the same page, but damn it, they're the champions now. So it's like, all right, cool, whatever. So like,
I don't know if this is a hot take in our world, but I think it would qualify as a hot take in other corners of the world, the wrestling fandom, I guess. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think Katana Chance and Caden Carter fucking suck.
Oh, do people think they're good?
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're bad.
I mean, I've heard Dave Meltzer say that Katana Chance should be on the main roster.
She can do like 2 or 3 spectacular things, and she did in this match. She did it was like a springboard Hurricane Rana thing too. I think it was Kiana James. She did it too, and it looked really good. And it's like, all right, cool, but like, there's no connective tissue at all with Katana Chance. She has no idea what she's doing in that ring, other than like occasionally she can do something spectacular because she's a great athlete. But no, what? No.
I watch them wrestle, and they've been in the system for years now. These two, these aren't like some of these other people in NXT who are literal rookies. And yeah, they can do the moves, right? And I really hate to use this phrase because it's been co-opted by some of the worst people in the wrestling space, but they're make-believe pro wrestlers to me. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, there's nothing organic about what they do in the ring, especially on the mic. These two are contenders for worst.
The promo before this was, like I mentioned, like Roxana Perez is, her thing later, but yeah, you get Katana Chance is like, well, we don't always see eye to eye, but we are the champions, and well, that speaks to what we can do in the ring, and we've proven from day one that we're we're the best, and that's why we're still the champions, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, stop talking.
That awful WWE speak, and they're even bad at it though.
They're so bad at it. Yeah, they can't deliver it. They're terrible at it. Yeah, it's so bad. Me and Katana are the longest reigning WWE Women's Tag Team Champions for a reason. It's like, okay. Like,
yeah, I see nothing
brutal.
in them. I think they're just, everything about them is off-putting to me. I think they stink. Fallon Henley and Kiana James, they're green as grass. They're rookies. What do you want me to say? I don't.
The backstory of them is incredible.
Do
you think our listeners know the backstory of Fallon Henley and Kiana James, or no?
No, not our list. I mean, most of them don't.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you're a weekly NXT viewer. So, Fallon Henley, like,
I fucking hate NXT with the passion of every burning sun. I hate NXT so much.
So
I would watch 1,000 hours of Raw before. I would prefer to do that before I'd watch like 100 hours of NXT. I fucking hate everything about Shawn Michaels NXT.
So like,
but you may continue.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Fallon Henley and or her family, I don't know if it's ever been clarified that she owns a bar, right? Is it her family or is it her bar?
Well, they're always in the fucking bar. Somebody owns the bar.
Somebody owns a bar, and it's related to Fallon Henley.
It's a honky tonk.
It's a
style bar.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
but Joe, it's not doing well. It's in financial distress. So here comes Kiana James, and apparently she, despite being like 27 years old, is a venture capitalist, and she says, "Well, I will help you keep this bar alive." It's fucking. The dialogue to get here, and the dialogue to get to this point is absolutely absurd. So first off, Kiana James is basically trying to portray a porn star. in the
For
early.
people who don't know, Kiana James does the gimmick where she's about to do office porn.
Yes,
That's her
she's
gimmick.
got glasses and cleavage, and she goes, "Be a real shame if your bar went out of business."
Right.
While she's sitting on the table and showing off her legs, and
like the implication here is that within a matter of minutes, Fallon Henley's going to be eating Kiana James's box.
Right.
That's in order to keep her bar.
I've heard your bar is not doing well, and Fallon Henley's like, "Who told you that?" Oh, I know. It's just like, I can make it up to you.
Gee, Kiana, I'll do anything to keep my bar. right. With the Cowboys.
Anything?
Accent.
Yeah. Anything?
Yeah, and then she's eating her box. Like that's,
and I'm like, I'm watching it, man. I'm in. Like,
Rich is in.
I'm in. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
You love the office porn and you love the realtor porn. That's your jam because you like women in professional clothing. You're
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
like those career women. I like a good strong career woman. So yeah.
When you do audio with someone for 12 years, you know what kind of porn they like.
Right, and you nailed it. You got it. So.
Yes.
So anyway, that's what's going on. I don't know how the guys are involved. Maybe you can clarify that, but there's some like love triangle quadrant going on. I don't know what's going on with them, but regardless. So regardless, they are misplaced. You won't believe this in NXT. They're tag team partners, but Joe, they don't always see eye to eye.
No, they're opposites, Rich. They don't get along too well.
But sometimes opposites can win the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. Yeah, this match is not very good. So there you go.
Yeah.
Best 2 out of 3 falls. Carmelo Hayes versus Apollo Crews. And man, they hit this match over the head. So they did a big video package about Apollo Crews coming back to NXT. I didn't realize he was there that long. I didn't realize he was in WWE since 2015. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I am Don Fuji. Goodbye.
God damn, that's so long. Because I vividly remember I am Don Fuji. Goodbye, and then like us doing a show about that. I cannot believe it was that long ago. But so you have Apollo Crews, a big story about he has unfinished business in NXT, and then Carmelo Hayes. I mean, they just played like a 10-minute video about Carmelo Hayes and how they're trying to push him to the moon. And you've always said that like they think that this guy is it. Like they really truly think that this guy is a top tier star. I'm not going to lie. After 23 minutes and he wins 2 falls to 0 on Apollo Crews, they did a 2 out of 3 falls match and didn't have Apollo Crews win a fall. Carmelo Hayes beat both of them. I thought this match fucking sucked. And I thought the crowd hated it and the crowd was bored out of their minds. And I mean, Carmelo comes out and he looks like $1 million and he's got a great persona and the video looks good and the music looks good and Trick Williams is a great hype man. Once that bell rings, man, I don't know about Carmelo Hayes. And I know you've said that for a while, that like that they think that he's a dude and he's going to be a big time guy. I don't want to call it shitting the bed, but man, I do not think this was a good performance for him. And he's getting that title shot. He's the next big guy. He wins this match, and then he, in the main event, after the main event is staring down Braun Breaker. I don't think he's that dude. They want him to be that dude. I don't know, man. I did not see anything out of him here.
I give him more of a chance now that Triple H is in charge, because when Vince was in charge, people were really fooling themselves with Carmelo Hayes because he's like 5'8". He's very, very short. He'll have more of an opportunity with Triple H. He does, I guess, in WWE's way, he does exude some star power and some charisma. And he's a good wrestler. Apollo Crews, he needs a change of scenery. The Braun Breaker match was nothing special. This was a nothing match. He had the opportunity on the main roster with the Nigerian gimmick or whatever it was. And granted, that was an awful gimmick, but awful stuff gets over on that roster sometimes. It just feels like he's spinning his wheels. We remember when we made fun of him going to that place against Braun Breaker?
Yeah.
Did you notice that that's part of his like Titantron now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The big eye. Yeah. He goes. That's that place. Yeah.
So now they like that because of course they did. So now he has to be the guy who makes the funny faces with his eyes and now he has to be that guy too. And they brought back Babatunde, right? So they brought
yes,
back,
big. I know you're all wondering where Dabo Keito Babatunde was, and he's back. So
I guess he's not the Nigerian general anymore.
No, he is not. And my man Booker Huffman had no idea who this guy was.
No,
because that guy's big. He has no clue.
Yeah.
He has no idea who that guy is at all.
Booker, he was on the main roster for a year, my man.
He has no idea. That's a tall drink of water right there, I tell you. He has no idea who he is. Poor Vic Joseph.
Not a fucking clue. Not a fucking clue. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, this match was, look.
Boring as fuck.
They're pushing Carmelo Hayes, so I was proud of them that they actually did 2 straight falls.
Oh, I love
that's not
that.
a WWE
I'll applaud them
do.
for that, for sure.
But yeah, the match wasn't really any good, and Hayes has had good matches, and I do give him more of a chance now that Triple H is in charge, at least for now. Who knows how long Triple H will be in charge? But this wasn't the best showcase for Carmelo Hayes at all, and
it wasn't very dynamic either. It was like they were in a lot of rest holds, and I'm like, all right, I don't know if this was like, hey, kid, prove that you can work the main event style. And it's like, that's not like, again, that speaks to something that company has done a lot of times over the years, and then an outdated thought of what that company, no, work your style, whatever you do that gets the crowd excited about your match. Like, fuck the main event style. No, go out there and get a crowd excited. And that, I've seen Carmelo Hayes do spectacular things. In this match, he did nothing spectacular at all. He was sitting in a rest hold most of the time. It's just, it was very weird.
Well, I mean, the other thing with the 2 straight falls is I guess they knew they were bringing back Babatunde, so Cruz was going to, get his heat back or whatever. So, I don't know. Now, Trick Williams was a guy I was really high on, but they have done nothing to develop him.
Does he not wrestle at all? Can he not wrestle? Is he injured? What's the deal with him?
He just almost never wrestles. I don't understand why. Look, how long is the Performance Center has been open? Like 10 years, right?
Yeah, I thought 2013 was the. I mean, let's clarify. I'm almost positive 2013 is when it opened, but let me clarify. Yeah, July 2013.
This guy has wrestled 38 matches in his life. And, they've got him on the house shows now at least. But it's just not enough work, and this is a guy with a great look. He's got natural charisma.
He's great at being the hype man too for Carmelo. The act is cool. It's good.
He's a good talker who clearly can be developed into an even better talker if you give him some more time on the mic. He's a natural talker with some clear upside. He's got it all. He's not getting the reps, and working against Miles Bourne and Ru Feng, and Otto Mensa on the road, other guys who can't wrestle either.
You made up at least 2 of those 3 names.
No, Oro Mensa is a real guy.
Okay.
Ru Feng is a real guy.
Ru Feng is not a real guy. No. That's a Primal Rage character. No, that's not a real guy.
Ru Feng is not a fringe character from Mortal Kombat 8. He's a real guy. Ru Feng. He's real. He's a real WWE wrestler. So is Miles Bourne, believe it or not. Rich. These are real men.
Yeah, that one I believe, but I also think you're making up. Ru Feng is completely fabricated, and then I forget even what the first name was. But
sir, I reviewed Miles Bourne debut against Guru Raj on Level Up last year. So that is behind the paywall. So don't you dare tell me that these are fake men. These are real men. My point here is, what are they learning wrestling each other once a week on the road? Right? It's like they have these guys in the warehouse, and this is why none of them really get any better. They gotta work more. And a guy like Trick Williams is now 28 years old, and he's still just a literal greenhorn super rookie. I mean, shit or get off the pot with these guys. Do the fucking breakup angle and get them in the ring and let them sink or swim. Let's go. What are we doing? The guy's been running in place with this is a developmental show. Develop people. Isn't that the point?
I don't know.
They should be doing different gimmicks and turning on each other and it doesn't fucking matter. None of this has to be cohesive or make sense. It's a developmental show. Try things. They should all be trying different things all the time. Now that like before we were pretending it was a developmental show when everybody was 38 years old and were some of the best wrestlers in the world. Now it's a real developmental show. So treat it like one.
Yeah, and even when you see these people wrestle, it's all like they're all doing the same thing and the same stuff. Yeah, it's just I don't want to. That's a different show for a different day. But yeah, that whole thing there is a fraud. You know, that whole performance center is just an absolute fraud. It could be so good in the right hands with the right idea. You have all these rings, you have all this equipment, you have all these people, you have all these resources, and it's just they're teaching everybody to do the exact same thing. Or it's just it's absurd. And the results speak for themselves. There are barely any after having 10 years of people. You have, a couple of names that people can bring up, the same names that get brought up all the time. And it's like, yeah, none of those. I mean, Bianca Belair is great. Yeah, cool. Okay. But like, this thing costs millions of dollars for 10 years. And you have, 4 or 5 people that you can actually truly say were developed by it. And yeah, so many of these people.
The results are horrible.
They're awful.
The results are horrible.
Because people, you'll say that and people go, what about Bianca Belair? Okay, well, they've had 10 years and they've invested
name someone else
of dollars. Like,
name someone else. And by the way, she just had one of the worst matches of the year at the Royal Rumble. So,
yes. Yeah.
I like her.
But this thing should be developing people like they should be having too many people. They should have more people than they could possibly handle. And that's not the case.
Right. And the 2 hottest people going into the WrestleMania are 40.
Right. The son of Dusty Rhodes and El Generico are the 2 most popular guys.
Yeah. They're the 2 hot guys going into WrestleMania. So, yeah.
Or a skinny redheaded guy that cut his teeth on the indies for 15 years. And then, the son
and was
of Dusty
already
Rhodes.
One of the best in the world when they hired him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the son of Dusty Rhodes. Yeah. All right. NXT Tag Team Title Fatal 4-Way. It was our boys Gallus, who Booker T just decided that he loved Gallus, much to the dismay of one Vic Joseph, who I felt so bad. Vic Joseph was so... I don't know if you noticed this. He was getting annoyed at Booker T because Booker T just had no idea what was going on, doesn't know any of the stories, doesn't know who people are supposed to be, doesn't know who he's supposed to be rooting for or who the heels or who the baby faces are. He's just like, Vic, all that those Gallus guys, I love them. And Vic's like, I can't believe you like Gallus. Do you really like Gallus? Like trying to say, like, Book, no, you're not supposed to. He's like, oh, Coffee and Wolfgang, those my boys. It's like,
has no idea who they are.
Idea who they are. Then he started like ragging on the New Day, and Vic Joseph's like, well, the New Day, Booker, they're one of the most decorated tag teams in WWE history, or whatever. Trying to get him back on the rails, and just Booker just decided now.
Quiet, Rich.
What? I can't hear it. The new mic doesn't pick it up very well. Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry.
How can you not hear it?
It's not. The new mic doesn't pick it up well. I know. Your old gimmick of playing the stuff, the new mic just doesn't do it.
Well, this is one for the road because they don't use this.
They don't use it anymore. They use a derivative of it, but it's not the same. We know. The real heads, the real Gallus heads, the day one-ish Gallus fans, we know what it is. Down since day one-ish or whatever the Usos used to say. We know. And this ain't it. Yeah, R.I.P. to the original Gallus theme.
That's the last time ever, and obviously we're going to get flagged for copyright, and we're not.
No, it was so unlistenable. I think we're going to be good. There's no way they're going to be able to hear that one.
How can the new mic not pick it up when theoretically the new mic is better than the old mic?
I don't want to have to get into it, but
it doesn't make sense. The new mic should be picking up anything that's in the room, right? Because
no, it's a microphone. They're more designed for talking into and voices and that sort of stuff.
I put the fucking phone right up against it.
I don't know what to tell you. I know it hurts. I don't know the next time you do a match game thing, I don't know what we're going to do. It's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, well, you're going to have a soundboard, and I'm going to have to tell you that it's time for a surprise game, and you're going to have to hit it.
Yeah, it's not going to be much of a surprise, though. So.
It's not the same.
No, it's really not. We'll work it out. We'll talk.
I don't understand if you can hear my voice.
I don't want to get into it.
It doesn't make any sense.
Talk to Dan Franks. He's the one that sent you the microphone. He's an audio wizard. He'll tell you.
I already thanked him.
Well, ask him why I can't play stuff on my phone anymore. So,
yeah, why won't it pick up the audio coming out of the phone? The mic doesn't know whether that's coming out of my mouth or coming out of the phone. Well, how would it know? What's it? A fucking sentient being? The fucking mic, it knows the difference between this is coming out of the man's mouth and this is coming out of the fucking a device. The mic can't know that. How does the mic know that these words right now aren't coming out of the phone?
Well, they're very clear. They're very clear and obvious, and you're pointing your mouth towards the. I understand you put the speaker of your phone,
right up
but
on
the phone
there.
speakers are not very good. They're crummy. So okay, it's fine. It's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll talk to Dan.
Fucking $1,000 phone, crummy fucking output.
Get Andrew Rich on the line. We'll figure it out. We'll get some audio wizards out there. We'll get you back. We'll get you back. Don't worry.
Anyway, this 4-way sucks.
It's fucking sucked. Gallus won.
I also have to say this. I once had a lot of hope for Thea Hale.
Oh,
how annoying is she?
The worst. Yeah, awful.
Just everything you hate about this company rolled up into a spunky 4'11" ball. I cannot stand her.
Screaming the entire time.
It's not even okay. It's not even necessarily the gimmick. I don't even know how to.
The gimmick sucks too, but yes.
Yeah, it does. It's horrible. And I don't care if 100 people in the building go crazy for it and we're pretend like we just talked before. Anything that gets a modicum of a reception now is well, listen to that pop.
She's over. 100 people in the performance center went.
I don't know. She's being taught all the bad WWE shit, and there's no hope for her. There's no hope. She's just her gimmick and her application of the gimmick is just so go away heat to me and annoying that I'm out on her now. I've changed my mind, Rich. I want her off my screen at all times.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, Chase U has kind of jumped the shark for me as well. I think I'm done with the Chase U thing. It was
I never liked him to begin with.
Yeah, there was parts that I thought was kind of funny about the ad, but now it's totally lost it. I mean, we're a couple years into this now, and it's just completely lost its.
You're gonna put that on the main roster?
How 2000?
No. How 2006 is that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You're gonna feud him with the fucking male cheerleaders, the fucking what were they called? The fucking varsity squad. What the fuck?
Spirit Squad.
Spirit Squad. I mixed them up with the varsity club somehow. They couldn't be more different.
Very different. Yeah, significantly different.
Wouldn't you love to see the varsity club just
Can you
throttle
imagine
the Spirit Squad?
Rick Steiner, like especially that era, like that era, Mid-South Rick Steiner. This is the best dumb jock ever. I mean, they'd fuck him up so bad.
Rick Steiner and Dr. Death versus Andre Chase and Thea Hale. Yeah. Hey, if you were running an indie and you booked Rick Steiner and Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Andre Chase and Thea Hale, people would tweet the "Take All My Money" gif and be like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I can't wait for Thea Hale to take it to Dr. Death." That's where we're at now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Since I always love keeping notes on Booker T, he said, "I don't know who these guys are, but they passed the airport test about Pretty Deadly." He said, "I don't know who they are, but those two guys passed the airport test." And Vic went, "You think those guys passed the airport test? Because they're like skinny. They're not meant to pass the airport test. You know what I mean? They're not
I don't think Booker knows what the airport test is.
He doesn't. He has no idea." I also loved his declaration that I don't know who those guys are. But like, how do you not know them?
I don't know who these former tag team champions of the show I commentate on are, but
they passed the airport test.
Yeah.
Elton Prince and Kit Wilson airport test. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Then we have the NXT Women's Triple Threat match. Roxanne Perez, Gigi Dolan, JC Jane. This is as I said, the pre-match promos were just absolutely horrific.
Brutal.
It's Roxanne doing her. You're not going to bully me. This is the thing that I have always wanted to do my entire life, is be a WWE superstar. And now I am the WWE NXT Women's Champion. And you will not take that away from me, even though you guys are bullies. God.
Yeah.
And then Gigi and JC being like, this has never been about you. It's about us. It's like, what is this show?
Yeah, it's so
Who
bad.
watches this?
I'm telling you, it's the worst. It's NXT is so bad. It's awful. It's terrible. Forget this match because who cares? Did you see?
Yeah, it's stupid. Move on.
Did you see my girl Toxic Attraction 3 barbershop window Gigi Dolan
and
the next
stiff
night?
the fuck. Yeah. So first off, apparently not a gimmick door. Like Bailey needed for the boom boom room or whatever the hell she calls her thing. Like she needed like a real door.
I think they thought it was gimmicked.
That wasn't a working door, because poor Gigi gets fucking railroaded into that door. Just go burn. It just makes like the loudest noise ever.
What?
And
hold on. Let's rewind. What did you call Ding Dong Hello? What did you call
I called it the boom boom room. It's not the boom boom room. It's Ding Dong
boom
Hello.
boom room. What the fuck? I worked in a restaurant that shall not be named that had an upstairs office that was also called the Boom Boom Room.
Oh,
you can put two and two together.
I will do that. Yeah, I've put them together. So,
I will not name the establishment. But no, it is not the Boom Boom Room, Rich. It is Ding Dong Hello.
Right. But it was a shoot door on Ding Dong Hello. So she throws her into the door. It just goes like it doesn't move at all. The door does it. It just, and then JC Jane goes to do a kick and just fucking Kawada kicks her right in the face.
She had a boot print and a bruise on her face.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, Toxic Attraction number 3, slow down. I almost got into it. I was like, hold on a minute, this might be awesome. So, and Gigi's crying and maybe real tears after the assault she took. But then unfortunately it is NXT, so JC had to say, it was never about us.
Yeah.
It was always about me.
Yeah.
It's like, We almost had something there, but
it's NXT, so they have to screech at each other.
Yeah,
right. That has to happen at some point and ruin it. So either the door was like locked, or the theory in our chat right now is that they had the door set up the wrong way, so it actually opened in the other direction.
Oh,
and they were
okay, all right.
So they were expecting her to go through the door, but the door was turned around, so she actually was throwing her into the hinge side of the door, right?
That door didn't open, I'll tell you that.
Either way, Gigi Dolan took a fucking beating. And honestly, it was one of the coolest things that I've seen
fucking rocked,
in NXT in a really long time.
And then JC's doing like a very safe worked kick to her and just fucking unloads on her the side of her face. And it looked and they were zoomed in too. It was fantastic. Yeah.
I mean, it was just, and I turned the corner on Toxic Attraction 3 several months ago.
She was the best in the triple threat match. She was way better than
She was
way better than Gigi. And I mean, you and I are the only two people on earth that don't think like Roxanne Perez is like the greatest women's wrestler of all time. She's fine.
She's fine. Yeah, she's fine. But yeah, no, I thought so too. I JC Jane, she just really turned the corner.
Yeah, Nobuhiko Takeda, JC Jane, I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, if she keeps braining people with the bottom of her boot, I mean,
Akira Maeda represented in NXT. Yeah, I love it.
She's gonna keep shooting up my power rankings, I can tell you that. But no, I mean, Priscilla Kelly really improved a ton right before she signed. She had a really good match against Chris Dickinson on the beach for Game Changer in Atlantic City, one of those outdoor shows during the pandemic. And she had a really good match on, remember those old UWN live pay-per-view deals that died quickly, against Thunder Rosa, I think it was. And then she signed. And she hasn't really recaptured that yet. in NXT. And Roxanne Perez, I mean, I do think she's pretty good, but
she's good. But yeah, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit.
And go a little overboard on her. I mean, she's fine. I mean, look, and I get it. She's got a good look, and I guess by their standards, she can talk because she talks the way they want her to talk. And I don't have any doubt that she's going to be on the main roster soon and all that. But I don't think she's just prodigal and can't miss, talent that a lot of other people do. And, she might get there. But I think JC Jane really has something. I do. I mean, at first I thought, she's going to be someone that we'll forget about. She's going to get cut in 6 months and then we'll forget she existed like half these other people in NXT. But she's really coming along. It's sometimes these people do develop in developmental, but she's on TV every single week and she's in the ring a decent amount. And some of these other people, they just don't give them reps. You can't get any better if you don't get any reps.
Yeah, she got a good look too. She's taller than a lot of it's solid. Yeah, I'm seeing something there. So yeah, there's definitely some potential. And then the main event, steel cage match, Braun Breaker, Grayson Waller. That was kind of boring.
Oh yeah, very dull.
I mean, Braun's not good.
This is the Braun book. I mean, he just every time out, it's like a broken record. Like he looks the part and he does some cool shit and he's got like good fundamentals and decent tools, but he just doesn't have a ton of charisma between the bells. It just evaporates. And it's the same story every time. And a lot of the time he's outshined by his opponent. They did a cage match here, but I mean, I don't know. The cage, they did some spots, obviously.
Yeah, they did like a spear into the cage and kind of hit each other in the cage, but it wasn't a match that needed to be in a cage.
Yeah, and Grayson Waller's another guy. I mean, why is he here? I mean, he's a finished product. Either put him on the main roster or let him go. I mean, what else what more does he need to develop? What's he lacking? And if you don't think he's worthy of a main roster spot, okay, I understand. Well, then what's he going to be in NXT until he's 40? He's got to be in his 30s, right? Grayson Waller.
We do this a lot because we always try to check in with him. I believe he's 33. Let me see if I could figure that out. He is 32.
I mean, he was close to a finished product when they signed him. And he's the best guy there. I mean, to me, he's probably the best male wrestler in NXT. Well, Dijak's there now. Right at the top. And he's 32. And I mean, in a functioning world where people don't overstay their welcome and your developmental is feeding your main roster and you're not letting talent get stale, he would replace either Dolph Ziggler or The Miz and have that role for the next 5 to 10 years. Do I think he's a WrestleMania main eventer? I do not. Do I think he can do what Dolph Ziggler does? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he could do it right now. And he's doing it right now in NXT. Yeah, he could absolutely fit in that role. But those guys never leave, and the next generation never comes up. So we're just kind of in this perpetual spinning our wheels.
I hate to be a corporate capitalist scum, but why are you paying Dolph Ziggler and The Miz millions of dollars when you can just let their contracts run out and call this guy up to do the same job for $500,000? It's Moneyball, right?
It's a market inefficiency.
Rich is tugging the collar.
I'm with you. I'm trying to, contextualize because that's how it would have done for many, many, many years in a lot of wrestling. Is like where if you had a certain type of character that you wanted, you would cycle through a bunch of people that played similar-ish characters because there's no point in paying Dolph Ziggler $2 million to be a chicken shit heel. Like you could just find another chicken shit heel. You know what I mean? Like there's no, The Miz is like, what? I mean, I get The Miz. I almost get a little bit because he's like shows up to like celebrity all-star games and stuff like that. So if you think, but Dolph Ziggler, like what are you getting out of Dolph Ziggler anymore? What uncovered gem are you possibly going to get out of Dolph Ziggler that you haven't had an opportunity to get over the last 12 years? Like, Hell, he was in the Spirit Squad. You just mentioned the Spirit Squad in 2006. Guess who was in the Spirit Squad? Dolph Ziggler was in the Spirit Squad. Like, they're just, it's in any other, like you said, a well-functioning wrestling company, you tell Dolph, all right, well, this is a great run. We had a decade. Okay, you're out. And then, Maddie Wahlberg or Grayson Waller would fit in that role tomorrow. And it would just, but whatever.
Yeah.
How else would we get Dolph Ziggler in his 21st Royal Rumble without, him never leaving? So
Yeah. Well, we get a lot of, for whatever reason, this show does attract a lot of like Karl Marx Wikipedia pagers, which is the most bizarre outcome. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Why are you listening to us?
But the leftists, like a lot of them listen to this for some reason, despite my presence. And I think a lot of them get that I kind of needle them as a bit. So I think they like that. The ones that don't get me, they've been run off years ago. But for whatever reason, we do attract a lot of those types. So they probably don't like hearing that I'm like, this is inefficient. Just get rid of the fucking expensive guys and hire the cheap.
Yeah, but it's also Dolph Ziggler, man. Like, who could really like Dolph Ziggler anymore? Like, even they would probably say, yeah, you know what, you should redistribute that wealth to other people that are not Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Like, pay three people to do what Dolph Ziggler's doing is what they should do.
That's right. You can give 3 jobs to 3 of these NXT guys at the expense of one. You can send Dolph Ziggler to the gulag. See?
Yeah, I'm helping you here. Yeah.
Right. See what I'm saying really is very much this jives with the leftist views, because I'm giving 2 extra jobs here for the same amount of money. And Ziggler, he can go to the guillotine with the landlords, and we can and we can give 3 people his one job for the same money.
Right.
So there you go. That's why they listen to this show, because
you come around. You eventually come around to it. So
Joe Lanza is nothing if not, friendly to the leftists and the Karl Marx Wikipedia pages and the wokes. I vibe with these people tremendously, with like the point I just made about Grayson Waller.
Right,
so
exactly.
That was the boring NXT main event.
Yeah, and that was a boring NXT review. I hopefully
someone should send Braun Breaker to Siberia, because I'm tired of watching them.
Yeah,
How about that?
yeah, and they're. I mean, there's nothing happening there, man.
Do they still send people to Siberia, or is that like not a thing?
I don't think that's a thing, but I don't know. Too close to Russia right now, I think, or it's in Russia, right? So yeah, you can't.
Siberia,
yeah.
Like, wouldn't they send the worst of their prisoners to like Siberia?
Yeah. Actually, they still do. I think
they still do.
I think that recently came up during the Brittany Griner thing. That's where she was.
They were holding her in Siberia?
I don't know if they actually put her there, but there was a threat that that's maybe where she would be going.
Was she like living off seal meat? Like
I don't know.
Remember when Luke Skywalker in Empire, at the beginning of Empire Strikes
True
Back?
Story, yes. A notable true story. Star Wars, yeah.
He had to cut open the fucking gimmick, his pet that he was riding there.
Yeah.
And for the warmth, right? They didn't have Griner out there with like eating seal meat or anything, did they?
I don't know if she ever actually got there before they were like,
Luke Skywalker in Empire.
Clearly the best of the Star Wars movies, right?
I don't know. Like, I enjoy the Star Wars movies, but I'm not a fucking nerd about the Star Wars movies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I'm with you too. Yeah, I used to, like, when I was younger, I thought, because I would like watch them and stuff, I was like, oh man. And then like I found about the internet and I was like, oh, never mind. I just think they're like cool movies. That's about the extent of my,
I just like Han Solo making wisecracks. Is that okay?
Yeah, a little Lando. Yeah, I like Lando. Yeah, Lando's a cool dude. So,
like, like when Leia's like, I love you, and Hans is like, I know. Like, that's a great fucking line. Like, can I just enjoy that aspect of it and like the fucking action scenes and stuff and not have to be all fucking geeky about it? So like, there's probably people in the chat who know what that creature is called that Luke had to
that are
slice
getting
open.
so upset right now that we don't know that.
Yeah.
It's a whatever. Yeah. Anyway. All right. That's the end of NXT. Let's never speak of it again. But all right, so we have a few different ways to go. You want to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, or you want to go to the National Wrestling Alliance, Joe? Where do you want to go?
The NWA has to be last. I mean,
I agree. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same wavelength.
Quite frankly, they're lucky we bother.
Right, we really shouldn't. But.
So we have to maintain the gimmick. I understand. But quite frankly, they're very lucky that someone bothers to cover this.
If it wasn't us, it's not going to be anybody else. So,
other than their state-sponsored podcasts that they have, no one else even bothers.
I'm not sure if they even bother with that anymore, do they?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, because there used to be one. Is that the same one?
Yeah, this is the NWA or whatever it's called.
Okay, that one's still going? Oh, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, it's right there on their fucking YouTube page, and they don't even pretend that it's not.
That's not a state,
which is fine. I mean, that's
go for it.
If that's like Ryan Satin likes to pretend that he's not. You know what I mean? Like these guys, they're just we work for the fucking company and do their podcast, and this is propaganda. But if that's full disclosure, then I don't fucking cares. Then I just won't listen to it, but it's fine. Why do you got me ranting about the NWA podcast?
Yeah, that's for later. Let's get
we
into.
We are the NWA. This is
we are.
NWA
I don't know what because you're giving credit to another NWA podcast, and did they talk about Big Daddy Yum Yum? No, they didn't.
No, they did not. And they're going to get a solid 12 minutes at the end of this show. I can promise you that.
Right? Were they in the DMs with one Bruce Tharp? No, they were not. All right.
No, they were not. No, things they were not doing. Those things.
Did they interview Rob Conway on the path towards his enemy? No, they didn't.
I don't recall that.
No.
They're Johnny come latelys is what they are.
Exactly. Right. So
okay.
Right. Let's touch on New Japan. We've got about half an hour, so we'll go quickly here with New Japan Pro Wrestling's The New Beginning in Sapporo shows night 1 and night 2. I did not watch the undercards of this. I just watched kind of the business ends. Both shows had 3 prominent matches, so I watched 3 matches on each. So I watched starting with the junior heavyweight tag titles on night 1, and then the main tag team titles on night 2. But did you watch any of the undercard? Is there anything worthwhile to touch on those, or we should just talk about the business end?
Yeah, like Ren Narita teams with Despy and Minoru Suzuki, and he was in an 8-man tag both nights. The first night with Rohei Oiwa, and the second night with Yuto Nakashima was the 4th partner. And what they're doing is Narita is teaming with Suzuki and Despy, but he doesn't necessarily trust them. So Suzuki will want to tag him in to like pick apart the bones of some guy he just beat up, and Narita like won't tag in. So they're doing like that kind of gimmick where Narita is teaming with these guys, but he's very wary of them after, years and years of Suzuki-gun terrorizing everybody. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. TMDK has a new theme song. Well, I guess you heard that when they had their tag title match the next night, which totally fits with their frat boy.
Oh, it is. It is the most. They nailed the aesthetic perfectly. It's total frat douchebag music. I love it.
Yeah. And really on the undercards, they're starting to heat up Hikuleo, Jay White. If for people on New Japan World right now, and actually it's free. You don't even need to be a subscriber. There's a pretty good 3-minute. I guess you would call it hype video for the Jay White Hikuleo Loser Leave Town match that really goes through the history of the feud. And I thought they did a really good job with that. So that's something worth watching because it's only going to take up 2 or 3 minutes of your day. And other than that, no, the undercards, those are the most notable things. We could talk about the business ends.
So night 1, big match started here with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Title match. Catch 2-2. Obviously, Akira and TJP versus just 4 guys, Dookie and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Unfortunately, just 4 guys weren't able to win this match. Catch 2-2 keeps the titles, but this was a hell of a match. I loved this match. I hope you did. I don't even say hope because I feel like I know you did, but I guess I should ask. Did you like this match? Because this match rocked.
No, it's great.
Okay.
I mean, Catch 2-2.
They're one of the best tag teams in the world that nobody is talking about. Like you are listening and you're probably like, they're better than you think they are.
No, they're one of the best tag teams in the world. And also I'm ready to say that they're the best IWGP junior tag team champions, like in my memory. Who's been better than them? I mean,
you'd have to go back to like Bucks and Red Dragon and stuff like that. I would say.
Yeah, but even then, I don't think those were great teams that had like great matches. but they had a lot of 3-way matches.
Yeah.
And none of them had really like substantial reigns. This team has had a long reign. They had a good tag league. They have good defense. They have excellent defense. They're going in the notebook. Like every time they have a big time match, it's like going in the notebook. I mean, this is the best junior tag champs that they've had maybe in Gato's entire run, maybe since 2011. Maybe Apollo 55 or something like that. If you want to go way back.
They're a pure tag team too. Like it's just tag wrestling. You know what I mean? Like it's not even like it's just they go out there and they just work. They're just a tag team that just goes out there and works. Like, yeah, it might be Apollo 55 is like in terms of a pure tag team. We're probably on that level right now with them.
Yeah. And you'd have to go back maybe to, maybe Devitt and Taguchi when they were feuding with Sabin and Shelley, like, maybe one of those teams from that, because while some great teams have come through, this has been maybe the best title reign during this era of New Japan. So yeah, they've been great. And this was great. And I thought Yoshinobu Kanemaru was great in this match. Dookie was great in this match.
This is the best. Yeah, this is the best I've ever seen Dookie look, and he's so over too. This was awesome to watch. I mean, this crowd wanted them so badly. They wanted Dookie to get this win, get this pinfall, and win those titles. And it was because there was a full cheer crowd or whatever. So yeah, when they didn't do it, it was so deflating, but deflating in all the best ways possible. Where the crowd was just like, "Damn it, like we really wanted it." So yeah, I thought this was an awesome match. I think. The next match, a little bit right on there, but I think I like the junior heavyweight tag match more than I like this next match, which is wild because I really, really like this next match, and it's Will and Taichi. And this was one of the better Taichi performances I've ever seen, and Will is Will Ospreay. I mean, what more do you say? But I love this match, but I honestly still think that junior tag I liked a little bit better. I don't know if it's a hot take or anything, but
no, I thought that I thought this match was fucking great. I borderline match of the year level great. I thought that Will Ospreay's new gimmick seems to be that I'm just going to let people beat the living shit out of me. He took a Ganso bomb in this match. What
yes, he did. Yeah, you don't do that. You don't.
Is he a psychopath?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
You can die taking that move. For people who don't know the origin of this fucking thing, okay, it essentially began as a botch. Like. Most of the Ganso bombs that have happened have been botches. Like when the guy can't get the guy up for the power bomb and then he just fucking drops him on his neck. Like, obviously, it got over as sort of this killer kind of deal where it's like a super finisher, kind of like the Burning Hammer or something like that. But in reality, like it should probably never be done. Like the margin for error on this fucking thing is incredibly slim. But and obviously Taichi, with connections to Kawada and everything, he fucking did it to Will. I think he did one, if I'm not mistaken, to Tanahashi though a few years ago. Someone in the chat might be able to confirm that. So I don't think it's the first time that Taichi has done one in New Japan. Because for some reason I remember Tanahashi taking one.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think he's busted out a few times just to like in the ode to Kawada type of thing or whatever. But yeah, it's rare. Obviously, it very rarely happens. But it's. I don't usually get like squeamish during wrestling moves. Like there are a lot of people who are like, oh no, but like the Gonzo Bomb does because it's like there's no room for error. Like you're just landing on the top of your head and compressing your spine to your entire body. Like it's fucking horrific. And then yeah, of course, Will just says, yeah, fuck it, in a semi-main event against Taichi on night 1 of New Beginning in Sapporo. Yeah, sure, I'll take that, no problem.
He probably was looking. He may have asked for it.
Probably.
I mean, knowing the history and everything, because but yeah, no, I thought this match was great. I thought they kicked the living shit out of each other, and I thought it was the best match between the two shows by a very slim margin over one of the matches we're going to talk about on the night 2. But I went 4.5 plus on this one. I have a new system, Rich. You want to hear about my new system?
Yeah, I'd love to hear about your new system.
I have incorporated the plus minus system in my match rating.
That's an old Larry boxing robes.
I got it from Larry.
Yeah.
I got it from Larry. I was just going to give all credit to Larry because I'm tired of doing every now and then I bust out the 4 1/3.
Right, which is absurd and I hate it.
Well, because I think it's better than 4 1/4, but not quite 4.5. So I would do like the 4 1/3. But no, I'm not doing that anymore. So when I feel like I'm in between two ratings, I'm just going to give it a little plus. So I didn't think this was 4 3/4, but I also thought it was a little better than 4 1/2. So I went 4 1/2 plus. That's my new system.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we had Naito versus Shota Umino, which what'd you think of this one?
I thought it fucking sucked. I thought this match was boring as all hell. These fuckers are still going. I think they just ended the match a couple minutes ago. I thought this was a disaster for Umino. I thought he looked so out of place. And for people that have been watching him for a while, and I know we've watched him for a while, I'm not surprised by it because the guy has always kind of felt like he's missing a step or whatever. And he felt like he's missing that edge or whatever you want to call it. And this, I thought, was a disastrous performance. I thought from him to go out there, and he absolutely shit the bed in this match. And I don't know if that was the design that they wanted the match to be. And I don't know if the idea was because if you watch the English commentary, like Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton were like, he's probably not ready for the moment. Or that was kind of the story that they told. I don't know if they were just kind of retconning it or whatnot. But I thought this match fucking sucked ass. And then he's botching stuff at the end. I thought it was a fucking disaster. I hated this match. Hated it. I wanted a zombie Antonio Inoki to come out there and scream bullshit and get those assholes out of the ring because I thought it was awful. What did you think?
I just closed my page. God damn it. I was going to try to pull up the cage match rating for this. See if you could find the grapple rating for this match.
Well, I can't log into Grapple right now, unfortunately. So it tells me I need to reset my password. And I don't receive a reset password. So
let's do the opposite. I'll look on Grapple.
Let's do that. Okay. All right. Let's see.
You pull up the cage match rating for this Shota Umino versus Tetsuya Naito. No, there it is. Okay, Grapple. There's Will Ospreay giving Mark Andrews a cutter. All right.
All right, I got it.
What do we got on cage match?
6.13.
All right. So do you think that comes out to a little over 3? Do you think that's fair?
No. I thought it was worse.
You go lower.
Yeah.
Lower than 3.
Yep.
What did you rate this match?
2.
2.
I thought it sucked. I thought it was terrible. I thought in a main event spot going 30 minutes or whatever the fuck they went 32 minutes and 11 seconds. Yeah. No, no. You wasted my time. You wasted everybody's time, too.
Grapple.
They're like, I didn't dud this thing.
Wow. Grapple with 44 ratings is at 3.05. So basically the same exact rating as cage match, right? Because that'd come out to 6.1. I went 4 stars on this. I'm going to be on Lanza Island, I think, because no one else seems to like the match. I thought that, okay, look.
I'm perplexed, but go on.
I thought it was nasty. Like
the way they nasty. Were the way they disgusting in a lot of ways.
The way they were attacking each other's necks, and I can understand why people thought it was boring because
was.
Sometimes Naito.
The clap crowd sounded like it was a cheering crowd. It sounded like a clap crowd again, but that's all right. Yeah,
sir, I gave you the floor.
I'm kidding. Okay, go ahead.
And you will not allow me to explain my shitty rating for this match.
Okay, go on.
That doesn't match the consensus. No, look, Naito can get a little long in the tooth with his matches. There's no doubt about it. Okay, we've seen that before. And do I think this was a little too long? I do. Did Shota Umino blow a key spot at the end of the match? He did. I don't think it was as big a deal in the greater feel for the entire match that he dropped him on that first attempt to drop him on his neck. He went right back to the spot, which
one of my least favorite things in wrestling, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, but he in that instance, I feel like he probably felt like he had to because it was such a key move in the match. So yeah, that was a negative as well. But I thought the nastiness that both guys brought to the match, and it was worked in a very vicious way, and they were both trying to break each other's necks. And at the end of it, while I do think it was too long, and I can't call it a great match, I did think it was very good as a total package. I think if they would have cut down on the time a little bit, and you remove the botch, and you don't work it in such a methodical manner that it could have been a great match. But I'm not afraid to be different. I'm not afraid to be out on Lanza Island. I still thought it was low-level notebook material. I was going to go 3.75, but then when I noticed everybody else hated it, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to give it the 4. You know why? because I'm an asshole like that. That's why. So somewhere between 3.75 and 4 is where I would have it, though, for real. But yeah, I don't know. I it's one of those matches where I understand why other people thought it sucked, but the nastiness of it and the viciousness of the work. There was that one sequence where Naito was just drilling Umino in the side of the neck with those elbows. And I don't know. I'm just really into that kind of nastiness in my wrestling right now. So it's a match that I seem to like that nobody else liked.
Yeah, and I think partially why I rated it so low and why I hated it so much was more going in with the idea, okay, here's a young guy in the biggest moment of his entire career in the main event. Let's grab this thing by the fucking horns, man. Let's go. And that's not what Umino does. And that's probably, I probably hate it more. I probably don't actually think it's like a 2-star match. You know what I mean? Like, just like you don't think it's a 4-star match, I probably don't think it's a 2-star match. But to me, it was so tremendously disappointing. And if I'm New Japan Pro Wrestling, I look at this guy and I go, okay, we got to figure out something to do. Because
is it him or Naito though?
Well, Tetsuya Naito has a history of having really fucking great matches, and Shota Umino is Shota Umino. So I don't know I'm blaming this one on Tetsuya Naito. I don't know if I'm blaming this on one of the most popular over wrestlers in New Japan Wrestling history. I'm blaming this on the sack of fucking potatoes that comes out and never does anything and bombed in Rev Pro main events and bombed for years in England, and now has come to New Japan and is bombing here too. Like, I'm blaming him. I'm not blaming Naito.
So what was your biggest problem with the match?
Just that Shota Umino has nothing. He doesn't have it. There's no charisma. There's no energy. There's nothing. You always say see it in the eyes.
Yeah.
I saw that guy live against Jay White, and I made direct eye contact with him. And it was like one of these, because he was in the ring and he was doing something, I forget what it was, and he's looking up or whatever, and I'm looking at him, and I was like, hey, he doesn't have it. This guy just does not have it. He just doesn't have it. And you can see when he comes out to the ring, he walks down the ramp and he waves. That's how he gets into the ring. He waves to the fans. Hey, how's it going? Like, he doesn't have it. Like, let's fucking go, man. You're in a main event here with Tetsuya Naito in front of a cheering crowd in Sapporo. Let's get some energy. Let's get something going. They can dress him up all they want like Hiroshi Tanahashi. They can make him look like Hiroshi. Fucker's not Hiroshi Tanahashi, all right? Like, he's just not. And again, we've seen that. For people that only watch New Japan, I see a lot of people saying, oh, give the guy time. Right? It's going to take a little while. All right, well, if only watched New Japan, okay, I get it. Yeah, it's the first time you've seen him in a major spot. For people that watch Rev Pro, that watch this guy's excursion, nothing on that excursion let me think that, this guy, yeah, he's a truth. This guy's going to be something. Okan was. When Okan was leaving Rev Pro after he was done with his excursion, you were like, that's a guy. That dude, he figured it out on excursion. And he came back to New Japan, and he knows it. He's still got it. At no point during the excursion did I think Shota Umino had it, and now he's back here, and I still don't think he has it. It's just that intangible it. He has nothing. He doesn't draw a crowd. The crowd doesn't seem to really give a shit about him on any level whatsoever. He just doesn't grab moments by the horn. He goes out there and just plays pro wrestler, and that type of stuff, you can see through it immediately, and I can see right through him. I can see a guy that's being a pro wrestler. He looks like a pro wrestler. He dresses like a pro wrestler, but he's not a pro wrestler. He's not it. He doesn't have that it factor that you need to be a top level pro wrestler. He just doesn't.
He's shooter.
No, he needs to spend some time with Moxley again, I guess. But yeah, the whole aesthetic is it's like he's shooter, and he comes out and he's got and then he comes out and he looks like Tanahashi, and it's like what are you? What?
Well, he's got Naito's haircut and entrance gear now, but he still looks like. It's like he's copying Naito and Tanahashi.
Right.
And Moxley.
Right. Well, what she should do is try to be a good wrestler, and then maybe those things won't look, but it just comes across like really try-hardy. And he is the tip. He is what I represent as like a guy playing pro wrestler. He just doesn't feel it. And like I said, you can see it in those eyes. When you lock eyes with a pro wrestler, most of them just go out there and they're like, they're in a different world. They're in a different universe. They're performing for you. Umino just feels like a guy this is what he's doing because this is what he wants to do. I just don't feel that drive from him. He just make me feel something, man. Make this crowd feel something, man. This match was designed for the crowd to get into Umino. They never at any point got into Umino whatsoever. They were trying to be polite at the beginning, and then they just decided halfway through, fuck it, we're just going to root for Naito because he's the heel, but he's Naito, so screw it. We're going to cheer for Naito. Didn't like it, in case you're wondering. Don't like Umino, in case you couldn't tell. All right, so you ready to go to night 2 here, Joe?
Yes. Are you ready to go to night 2?
I'm ready. I'm done.
All right. You're finished burying this kid.
I'm finished burying him. Yeah.
All right. So night 2 it is. I assume you did not watch the undercard.
I did not. No.
So I'm looking at it, and what they did was they put a lot of the guys who were in the business end of night 1 into the undercard of night 2. There was really nothing notable other than, once again, they did some stuff with Suzuki, Despy, and Narita, but they kind of Narita was kind of warming up a little more to them this time around in the match with Nakashima. And other than that, nothing notable that I recall in any of the other undercard matches. The night 1 also had the singles match with Okan and the German guy, which I always, obviously I prefer the singles matches to some of these tags. And I don't think night 2 had any singles matches on the undercard.
No.
So, yeah, so there was nothing else all that notable to talk about on night 2, other than the continuing interactions between Narita and the former Suzuki Gun guys.
All right, so first off, you have to apologize to one Hiroki Goto because you were convinced that he was going to blow it again. That Bishamon, there was no way they could beat your frat douchebag TMDKs, and they did.
Yeah.
Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi retain the tag team titles over TMDK. I got to admit, I was kind of surprised too, because they give TMDK, obviously they bring Sabre in there, they add Fujita, they get new music, they get new shirts, and you're like, all right, well, there's no way they're going to do all this sort of stuff and then not have them win the titles. And then Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi just beat them. I was very surprised by this as well.
Yeah, and I thought it was a great match. So very surprised by the outcome. Thought for sure that Goto and Yoshihashi would lose here, and they would establish the new unit with some championship belts. And that's not what they did. I kind of like it. It's maybe this team will have some legs. I keep thinking that they're going to lose these matches, and they keep winning them. So maybe we'll have some tag team champions that have a long, substantial reign in the case of this team. Who knows? But I thought it was a really good match, too. This hit the notebook, too. I had, I guess, 6 total matches between these 2 shows that went in the old notebook. So I had this one at 4+, and I thought the work was very good, and I think that Yoshihashi is a guy who very, very clearly is best suited in tag teams.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is it. If this is what the rest of his career is, they've figured it out with him. This is perfect.
Yeah, this is his role. I mean, he was in that really fun tag team with Tomohiro Ishii. He was a good pin eater for Kazuchika Okada in what felt like a million years ago, but was probably like 2013. And now he's got this team with Goto. He was 1/3 of the best trios champions that the company ever had. So he's a below average singles wrestler in this company, but he's a very, very good tag team wrestler.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, everything you said there, I totally agree with. I thought it was a really, really good tag match. And yeah, Goto and Yoshihashi. It's a really cool team. It's probably the best role for both those guys at this point in their career. But yeah, I was a little surprised by the result. But yeah, a really, really good match. New Japan World TV title match here. Zack Sabre Jr. defending the title against Tomohiro Ishii. Went 14 minutes and 38 seconds, right under the gun. They have 15-minute time limits for these matches. I went notebook on this one. I thought it was really good. I probably went in with higher expectations, and it was good. I think these guys have had better matches, and they'll have better matches in the future, but I still thought this was really, really, really good. Definitely something to go out of your way to check out. But yeah, Sabre gets the win, retains the title. So I guess that's the representation of the stable is him at least having the title. But yeah, I thought this was good, but not great.
Oh, I thought it was great. I went 4 1/4. I thought this kicked ass. It's weird though, because this was meant for young guys, and even Zack Sabre Jr. references that in his promos. He talks about how this is supposed to be a young man's title, and for them to come and get it and all that. And Meanwhile, he wins the tournament, and his first defense is against a guy who's like 45.
Right.
So I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know. I thought they would have Ren Narita chase him, and that's not what they're doing. Like they're not even hinting at that direction whatsoever. Both guys have they had their Wrestle Kingdom match, and now they're just off on their own paths. And so I don't know. Now Sabre keeps talking about and taunting with the idea that, he's not a young guy and he's going to hold this thing and the young guys can't beat him. He keeps saying shit like that in his promos. This is something I was thinking about, and this probably isn't what they're going to do, but is this Kosei Fujita thing maybe just a ruse, and like Fujita's going to turn on him and challenge him for this title?
I don't see that. I don't see that right now. I mean, maybe because he is, like you said, all the Sabre's just constantly hitting in like the young guys thing. I feel like that should be for Narita. That seems like the spot for Narita, but like you said, he's not really doing that right now. So maybe the Fujita's just like I don't know. I just don't see it though. It seems like they want him to be like kind of the young lion on that team, the pin eater in tag matches and whatnot. So I can't really see it, but yeah, this title doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now. It just feels like another never open weight title at this point, and it's like I don't know if that was really the goal. And I mean, I love the 15-minute time limit. I love the idea behind the title, but yeah, let's maybe get in on some younger guys here, or get some younger guys in the mix at least.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't sub, remember all these matches are free, so you could just log into New Japan Worlds without a lot. Well, you don't have to log in. You could just fucking.
Yeah, just go to YouTube.
How would you say it?
Just go on to New Japan World, and it's there. So
yeah, and you can watch all these TV title matches, without having a sub. So, and this one I thought was really good, but it's just I ultimately I don't think they'll do the Fujita thing either. It's just something. I mean, I'm just trying to think of any angle,
right,
as to where we're going with this, and. I know people in the chat are saying he's facing Clark Connors but Connors isn't. I don't think Connors is going to beat him. So that just seems like a convenient defense for America, and that should be a really good match. But I don't know. It's just really weird how they're just not doing what this title was intended for at all. It would make more sense if Sabre was in a feud with a young guy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's just really weird that his first defense is against a 45-year-old guy.
All right, and then we had the junior heavyweight title match, Hiromu versus Yo. I thought this was good. I thought Yo looked really good here. He's a guy that has been prone to kind of the stuff that I've been annoyed about Umino with, where it doesn't feel like he really grasps big moments. I thought he did pretty good here. He's not like he's never going to be like a top tier guy, and never be a top junior. He's never going to be a main eventer. But I thought this was a good little, he's a main event here, so I'll give him a little credit there. But I thought this was good. Not great. That's kind of the same way I like Sabre and Ishii a lot more than I like this match, but I don't know. I'm probably 4 flat on the Hiromu and Yo, maybe 3 3/4. You know what, Joe? I'm 3 3/4 plus on this match. How about that? Right in between. It works because it's not that bad, but it's not a 4. It's right in between there. So there you go. But what'd you think of this one? I thought it was good, but not spectacular.
I thought it was great and the best match of Yo's career.
Really? So, I did think Yo's performance was awesome. I'm kind of down on Hiromu, so I think that probably clouds it a little bit, but I'm with you that I think it was Yo's best performance ever.
I thought Yo was outstanding in this match. And
he just felt like he belonged for the first time in ever.
This is a true main event that lived up to being in the main event. It was a really great match, and I thought that Yo in particular was great, and I thought this was just barely below the Ospreay Taichi match for best match of the entire weekend for them, or whatever days these shows were. So yeah, I had that 4.5, and I haven't been super into Hiromu over the last year and a half either. But really, this was more about Yo than Hiromu anyway. So, I thought he had a really good Super Junior Tag League tour too, in terms of
he was great performance. There. Yeah, I thought that. After that, I was like, you know what, his role is probably just back in a tag team again. That's probably the best thing. But then you see this match, and you're like, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, so he's been good lately, and this was a really great match. And New Japan, I firmly believe that they're back. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom was great. There were 6 great matches to me on these 2 shows. I think that we've got the new Beginning in Osaka coming up, and I think Okada and Shingo obviously are going to tear the house down. And some of the other stuff on that show doesn't look super great. I guess we could just talk about that, right?
Yeah, so let's go to it. Yeah, it's New Beginning in Osaka coming up this weekend.
So we've got Okada and Shingo. And then obviously what they're saying is, the winner of that is going to face somebody at Battle in the Valley. And it's going to be Okada. Okada's not losing to Shingo here. Tama Tonga versus Phantasmo for that's a sleeper match. That's really, I'm more confident in Phantasmo in that match, to be honest, because Tama Tonga is the guy who's kind of inconsistent. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him. The loser leave town match is between Jay White and Hikuleo. I mean, that has some intrigue because look, I think ultimately Hikuleo is going to lose that. And I think Jay White's just playing this game again where he feeds it to the media that, his contract's coming up, and I don't think it is. But there's still that sliver of doubt, right? So there's some intrigue with that match.
And there's also the caveat of loser leaves Japan, which might mean different things. You know what I mean? Because Jay White is wrestling in America at Battle in the Valley. So is it a possibility that he just says, you know what, I'm sick of going to Japan, but if you guys are going to do enough shows in America over the next couple of years, I'll just be American exclusive. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a distinct possibility of that too. People think that it's like loser leaves New Japan Pro Wrestling and joins WWE. Like, and that's not exactly, loser leaves Japan is a little different. You know what I mean? There's a way that you can get around that too if you're Jay White and just say,
they both live in America.
Right.
So it could, like you're saying, it could be Jay White just doesn't want to come to Japan anymore, or they want to build the American tours around some stars here. And you're absolutely right. That could be what people are missing. And, it could be kind of like a little out that New Japan had, because it's not loser leaves New Japan.
No,
you're right about that. It's loser leaves Japan.
Yeah, not loser leaves the company. So, there's only this company. There's only room for one of us. It's loser leaves Japan, which I think is an interesting little caveat they put in there. So don't be so surprised if Jay White loses and everybody loses their goddamn mind, and then he's just at Battle in the Valley, and in a week later, and it's like, all right.
And then cuts a promo and says, I'm not going back to Japan. I didn't want to go anyway, but I'm going to be here. Yeah, and just does his fucking gimmick here. And it's just funny how, it's like, it kind of raised our eyebrow that these stories conveniently got leaked to the media that both of these guys, WWE showing interest in this guy, and this other guy, his contract's coming due. And, it's like, it's just very interesting that both of those stories got leaked around the same time. And then they announced this loser leave Japan thing. And, but I don't know, we'll see. And then we've got the 6-man titles. Would you have been able to name the
hell no
6-man champions if I asked you? Like, even if they give you a minute to think about it, you wouldn't have been able to. All right, so it's Evil, Yujiro, and Sho, and they're facing Minoru Suzuki, Despi, and Ren Narita. As I said, they were very uneasy with one another in Sapporo, but Narita began to come around a little bit in the second match, and we'll see if they're still doing the uneasy partner deal in this match in Osaka. Tanahashi versus Kenta. They fucking killed each other at Wrestle Kingdom last year.
Yeah, I just hope they don't get hurt again. I want to see these guys wrestle for their whole year. So, yeah, please don't kill each other.
Kenta's got a big match against Fred Rosser at
hell yeah, he does. A strong open weight title. He better be healthy.
Yeah, so Rosser took care of business against Pretty Peter Avalon and then called Kenta out, and that's a real thing that happened, by the way, taking care of business against Pretty Peter Avalon.
Nothing was made up. Nothing false there.
And then, he called
Fred
Kenta
Rosser,
out.
the unsung hero of New Japan's American wrestling promotion.
Yeah, I mean, that guy, they better book him in Japan this year. He's earned it. Master Wato versus Taiji Ishimori. And just a singles match, Rich, just like Tanahashi.
Just straight up, just straight up, let's wrestle. Yeah, I love it.
We're going to have some fucking matches here, Where's the story? Tomoaki Hanma, Shota Minu, Tiger Mask, Taguchi versus Naito, Sanada, Hiromu, and Bushi, and then Yano and the German against Great Okan and Hanare. So, and then Battle in the Valley's coming up, and that's not till next week. We'll find out presumably who the world's heavyweight. Who can that be? I mean, is there any? I haven't really been paying attention.
I haven't really either. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's somebody in New Japan that they're just going to announce and they just don't want to do it yet, or if it's somebody a random name. I don't know. It's interesting that it's still TBA. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways it can go. It could also just be a guy that walks out, after Okada and Shingo on Beginning Osaka, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's Tanahashi or whatever. It's possible that, it's Kenta. It's not going to be Kenta. He's in the strong open weight. So I don't know.
Quick, Rich, who are the strong open weight tag team champions? The third set of tag team titles in New Japan.
Open weight tag team champions in the Motor City Machine Guns.
And they will defend against Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs of Team Filthy.
The West Coast? What are they? The West Coast...
Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, so it's West Coast versus Detroit. I like it,
Yeah. Coughlin versus Kratos on the pre-show. David Finlay versus Bobby Fish. That could be really good. Of course, Kyrie versus Monet. And then Ross Kenta, which we talked about. Jay White, Eddie Kingston. Filthy Rules. Tom Lawler versus Homicide. Who did Tom Lawler face in MLW under the Filthy Rules on Filthy Island? Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that rocked. Yeah, who was that?
On Filthy Island. I can't remember who the opponent was.
I don't remember either.
But then we have Mascara Dorada, Josh Alexander, Adrian Quest, a.k.a. Young Fuego, and Rocky Romero versus Kushida, Volador Jr., Kevin Knight, and the DKC. Kushida and Kevin Knight have been having good little tag team matches on Impact over the last month or so.
They're a good team. Yeah, they're a fun team.
Yeah. And then we talked about Zack Sabre Jr. versus Clark Connors. Battle in the Valley looks really good.
That looks like a hell of a show.
Is with New Japan Strong switching format. If you don't want to shell out the $30 or whatever, they're going to break up this show into episodes of New Japan Strong. So if you don't mind watching on a few week delay, if you have a New Japan World subscription, you'll be able to watch this show over the course of like a month, right? So, or you can pay 9.99 yen and in effect purchase Battle in the Valley, right? But you'll be getting the show on a several week delay.
Right. As long as you have patience. I mean, obviously you should stream it on voiceswrestling.com/fight.
Of course.
Is what I would do personally. But if you for some reason cannot, you will be able to get it on New Japan Strong over the course of a couple weeks. So options.
Yeah. So quick little plug behind the paywall, $10 tier. I did a review roulette. I reviewed the final New Japan Strong under the old format, which of course had the Fred Rosser, Pretty Peter, Avalon main event. I reviewed the live NWA Power, which leads into our next and final segment of this show. And I also, what else did I review on that? Oh, MLW Underground's debut. So you get an in-depth review of that as well. That article has to be 2,000-3,000 words, right? I wrote a lot.
It's a lot. Review. Yeah, it's big. Yeah. Again, they're not like extensive, like this match happened and that match happened, that match happened. They're more about, bigger picture stuff, narrative driven, articles as opposed to reviews of, and then this match happened and this match was ended by this and I gave it 2 stars. Like that's not, it's more about.
Then he did a sunset flip and he kicked out at 2. Then he did an armbar. I just think, look, there's nothing wrong with those kind of reviews. I just think, I like to do something a little different. And I think, quite honestly, it's more interesting to talk about bigger picture topics and wider narrative talking points when reviewing these shows. So that's the way I approach them. I do the review roulettes maybe a couple times a month. And it's like the title implies. It's just random television shows that I'll review. It's never set which shows I'm going to do. I was on a Rampage kick for a while, but then I stopped doing those, stopped including those. And this time, this had a theme. It was the end of New Japan Strong, and it was the beginning for MLW Underground and the new beginning for NWA Power doing their first live Power. So that's up on the $10 tier right now, and that's a good transition into NWA Nuff Said.
Yes. Also on voicesofwrestling.com/fight. This weekend, and you are going to get the bang for your buck on that. You're going to get 4 pre-show matches. Well, you're not going to get those. I don't know when those are airing or if they are airing, but you're going to get 9 matches on the main show on NWA Nuff Said. Are the pre-show matches showing? Who cares?
They do a pre-show on YouTube.
Okay, well then there you go. So you can watch that. You can watch the 4 pre-show matches on YouTube, and then at voicesofwrestling.com/fight, you get the 9 matches on the main show. All the titles are on the line. NWA Nuff Said. So the pre-show matches very, very quickly. Missa Kate versus La Rosa Negra. Dak Draper and Matthew Mims versus Jack Stain and Blake Bulletproof Troop. Mercurio, one of your favorites, and Natalia Markova versus Genocide and Max the Impaler. And then Odinson versus Joe Alonzo is what's going to get you hyped up and ready to go for NWA Nuff Said. I hope do they bark? Do they do barking on that where they're like, you gotta, we're almost out of time. Yes, you gotta order the pay-per-view. Like,
in fact,
Odinson and Joe Alonzo are going, like just clubbing each other. You gotta get out here. It's only 10 minutes to order.
In fact, they do.
Incredible. God, I'm glad.
Sometimes Billy himself at Billy will do a hard sell at the end. Joe Alonzo, I believe, signed an NWA deal.
Okay.
So, we'll see what happens with that. Only 9 matches on the pay-per-view. Normally there's like 14. I mean, so we've got Pretty Empowered against the Renegade Twins. The Renegade Twins, I like them. They've been on Dynamite a few times, or AEW a few times, not necessarily Dynamite. I think they were on Rampage a couple weeks ago. They work the YouTube shows. They've got something.
They got a cool look. Yeah, if you've never seen them, they got a cool look. I like Pretty Empowered. I'm actually excited about this match in a weird way. Like, I never like the Hex. I'm so glad I don't have to watch the Hex this month. Like, I just never want to watch the Hex again. But I am down for Renegade Twins. Yeah, the Renegade Twins look like they have a really, really cool look, and I like Pretty Empowered.
Not bad.
So.
They're not bad.
Yeah,
they're tall.
They
they're not twins though. Like they don't even
look like twins. No,
they got to be fraternal twins, right? They can't be. What do you call that one? Then non-identical. What's that? Fraternal? They call that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever the fuck. They're not identical twins for sure.
No.
La Rebellion defends against Blunt Force Trauma, Carnage and Damage. This is actually.
You don't know if you didn't know who. If I just told you, there's somebody listening, and if I said, okay, at the NWA pay-per-view this weekend, there's a team called Blunt Force Trauma, and it's Carnage and Damage. Who are Carnage and who are Damage? You don't have to know which one's Carnage and which one's Damage. Just give me 2 names that you think Carnage and Damage are. I honestly think if I gave somebody 200 hours, they wouldn't get to these 2 men, right?
Well, I mean, you would. I think you would run through everyone on the roster first, and you would get to them eventually, right? Because there were guys that were already on the roster.
First imply that you know who's on the NWA roster. So I guess you're right that if you are an ardent NWA fan, you would eventually find these guys, get to these guys. The one of them is pretty tough, but if you know at Billy, you know that this guy's getting a job. No matter what, it was only a matter of time until he got a job. So
he was. Yeah, I mean, it's Marche Rocket and Rodney Mack doing the Doom gimmick.
Yes. So
they wear the black tights, they wear the black mask. It's very minimalist, and it's a very obvious ripoff of Doom. Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. So look, it's better than what Rodney Mack was doing before as the question mark 2 or whatever. That feud was abysmal. It was, so I will say this about the latest season of NWA Power it's been perfectly fine. The previous season leading into the last pay-per-view was awful. It was some of the worst wrestling television you'll ever see in your life. This season of NWA Power was perfectly competent, boring pro wrestling. The best comp I could give you, Rich, it was like TNA/Impact at its most boring times, if that makes any sense.
Of course, yeah.
That's what the latest season of NWA Power was. It was just a very boring pro wrestling show with a bunch of very boring pro wrestlers. But it had way less of the cringy, embarrassing, I hope nobody walks in the room aspects that the previous season of the NWA had. So from that standpoint, it was better than the previous season. And these seasons tend to vary wildly. So who knows what's coming next after this pay-per-view. Thomas Latimer versus Fodder in a Singapore cane match. They did a big angle.
Who's Fodder? I admit I have no idea who Fodder is.
He's I don't know who. He's fodder. I don't know. He's been here for a couple seasons now. He's been feuding with Tom Latimer. Do you mean who has he been in the past? Is that what you mean?
I guess, yeah. Like, how would I know fodder?
Well, pull him up on the old cage match.
He doesn't have one, which is why I'm asking you. That's the problem.
I don't know. He's just
there's
like
a few guys.
guy.
There's a few guys on the show that I don't think have cage matches. They definitely don't have Wikipedia pages. Fodder might have a cage match. I don't want to besmirch one fodder.
Did you try looking him up or what?
Let's see. Fodder. Psycho Boy Fodder. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got 43 matches to his name. He debuted in May of 2021 with Free the Narrative. Okay, great. Cool. Awesome. All right. So that is fodder.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
Yeah, I don't think he was anyone. He's just like a white
fodder.
guy.
He's just fodder. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's just been here. I know him from here, Rich.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to know who fodder was, but fodder's just fodder.
I just know him from the National Wrestling Alliance. That's where I know him from. These men, EC3 versus Kevin Kiley will be on Nuff Said.
So for people that do not know, that's one Alex Riley. If you're wondering who's Kevin Kiley, that's Alex Riley.
That's right.
Yeah. Why is it Alex Riley? I don't know. I can't answer that for you, but it's Alex Riley.
Well, a better question is why not? A better question is why not?
I don't. Yeah, you're right.
Why not?
Yeah. True.
Chris Adonis versus Trevor Murdoch. Possibly match of the night when all is said and done. You think we could hit 3.5?
Chris Adonis and Trevor Murdoch. Yeah.
Give me a ceiling and a floor.
A ceiling is 3.5. A floor is like 3. And that's what you know what? That's the good aspect about this match is that there's no way it's going to be bad and it might be okay. And that's pretty good for the NWA.
It gets the Meltzer, 2 pros having it. What did he say
two
about
professional wrestlers having a professional wrestling match? Yeah.
So for Jericho and Randy Orton or whatever it was. Yeah. Camille against Angelina Love. So Camille's got her work cut out for her. Now it is no DQ. So shortcuts, will be happening, which will help Angelina Love. Kerry Morton versus Alex Taylor for the junior title. Kerry Morton's coming along nicely in the NWA. Scion defends the
Homicide is usually my go-to. When you were saying, is this going to be the match of the night? I was like, well, no, Homicide's no, not on this night. No, not against Scion.
Every other match you go, or make some sort of noise.
It's the NWA.
Tyrus defends the NWA World Title against Matt Cardona. No one allowed at ringside.
I'm sure that won't be broken at all, right? I'm sure the heels won't get heat by ruining that stipulation. So
since they're both heels, there's a massive possibility of heels coming down to interject themselves in this one. Look, the live power and the go home show were perfectly acceptable, if not unspectacular pro wrestling shows. Much better season than last season. Much better build to these matches than the matches to the last pay-per-view. And Rich, I have good news for you. You get to review this next week as well.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
Strap in.
No, I always come back from these. I might groan it every time you mention the names. I always say when I'm done watching an NWA pay-per-view, I never feel cheated because they're fine. You know what I mean? Like I know what I'm going to get and it's going to be kind of goofy and it's not going to be that good, but it's fine. Like it's perfectly acceptable I'm very rarely bored by when I watch the NWA. It's like fine. Maybe it's just because it's so funny or it's so bad it's funny, but yeah, I always come on these and I always kind of review them pretty well. And like EC3 and Alex Riley is going to be an absolute fucking disaster, and at least it'll be something to talk about. So
there were a couple pay-per-views where you struggled hard and you were very bored.
That's true.
But,
yeah.
Because some of them had like 14, 15 matches.
It does get a little long in the tooth sometimes, but
this one I think will be a little tighter. Especially if you skip the pre-show, which I will not be doing. I'll be locked in, of course, to the pre-show. Yeah. Now, this is $29 or $24.99 on Fight, so $25. As a season pass subscriber, Rich, which I am, of course.
Yeah.
you no longer get the television shows, but they are honoring if someone listening, if anyone listening is a season pass subscriber, okay,
of which I'm sure dozens and upon dozens are,
as I am, then they are honoring that through your original subscription date. So I don't have to pay for this, and I don't have to pay for any of these pay-per-views through August. So however many pay-per-views they have through August, yeah, they're still going to honor that because I re-upped in August or whatever. My thing re-ups. But so don't like double pay if you're a season pass. Check it and make sure, because they are, you should have gotten an email, but they are going to honor those subscriptions, at least for the pay-per-views, through your subscription date. Mine happens to be like August 31st or something like that. So it's interesting that they've moved away from Fight. I think what they realized, Rich, was they probably looked at the bundle, the people who purchased the bundle, like me, and then looked at when these pay-per-views came around, how few pay-per-view, how the low number of pay-per-view buys they were getting outside of the bundles, and were probably thinking to themselves, we're giving all of these people, these hardcores who are going to buy the pay-per-views, we're giving them 5 or 6 pay-per-views a year for $50.
Right.
No one else is buying them. So why are we doing this? Because these people will very likely buy most, if not all, of these shows anyway.
Right. We're letting our hardcore. We're not getting as much as we can get out of our hardcores in terms of money, and we're not growing at all because nobody is finding us and nobody's discovering us.
Right. Because if the pay-per-views were doing well outside of the bundle, they wouldn't be killing the bundle. And they moved all their TV shows, all the first run episodes of their TV shows back to YouTube for free. I mean, they were all there anyway, just on a couple day delay. But the value in the bundle was in the pay-per-views because you could pay $50. Like, I know we're going to review all these and I buy them all. So the bundle's a great deal because I'm getting 5 or 6 pay-per-views for $50 instead of paying $25 each. So I think what they realized was, well, the people buying the bundle are the people most likely to buy more than one pay-per-view a year.
Right,
so
right. Yeah. Why are we giving those people, a fantastic
everything
deal
for $50?
Right.
Yeah. So, I think that was the mindset behind killing the bundle and putting the TV back on YouTube. So either way, whether my read on it is right or wrong, clearly that model wasn't a success in some way. So otherwise they would have kept doing it.
Right, right. The clearest evidence of that is the fact that they're not doing it anymore. Yeah, that they've changed and they're not doing it anymore. So that means they were not making money. So there you go. That is NWA Nuff Said. VoicesOfWrestling.com/fight. If you want to order that show this weekend, we will be locked in, as you said, and review it, of course, next week on the Flagship. And that is it for us. So make sure you subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/voicesofwrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, flagshippatreon.com as well. Plenty of great stuff going on there. Good audio, good written content, a lot of content, just an insane amount of content for your value of $5 or $10 a month. As we did mention for the big game / Super Bowl, because we could say the Super Bowl, promo code VOW on DraftKings gets you some nice deals, 200 in bonus bets, also $5 for free as well. So you get some good bonuses there with promo code VOW. So that is that. VoicesWrestling.com/Discord as well. And also VoicesWrestling.com for previews, reviews, columns, all that other good stuff. So, all right. So that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich. We will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.